4:30. You can feel free to continue to eat, but I just wanted to be respectful of everybody's time and call us to order. Sorry, I have a mouthful of food right now. I didn't realize it was 4:30. I want to welcome our Iowa Association of School Board staff here to lead us in our board retreat tonight. And since I'm still chewing, if you don't mind, I will let you all introduce yourselves.
DT has food in his mouth, so I think I got voted to go first. So I'm Tammy Draba. I'm one of the Associate Executive Directors at IASB, responsible for board leadership, policy, and legal. I like to say I'm a recovering board member. I spent about 15 years at the table. I measure my time pre and post pandemic. And then I usually wait for facial expressions of those of you who I can tell have lived the same thing and go, yeah. So.
Yes, DT McGee, Executive Director. This is started my 4th year in this position. You have the distinction of being the first board that I get to be an active participant with some level of board development facilitation. Not because I don't want to, but because we have experts that do that work. And so I support them, but happy to be here and have that experience. I've been out to multiple board development workshops, but always more just to support the staff and our local members. So thank you. I've been in education since 1992. And I need to say thank you to Amy just for stepping up. So thank you for stepping into a leadership position for Iowa City. Great respect for her, and we made a great connection when she was at Linn-Mar, and so excited to see her back in Iowa City.
Thank you. All right, well, I'll come up from my table. So my name is Mike Guanci. I'm the, let's see if I can get this straight, Associate Executive Director of Government Relations and School Finance. It is a long title. It does not fit on a business card. Thankfully, nobody takes business cards anymore. I'm in my I've been with the association for 2.5 years. Prior to this, I actually came from state government. So I was working in the Department of Management, as well as working at the Legislative Services Agency, looking after school finance as well there. My main job was, they have lots of ideas. They think they know what they're writing, and those ideas, it was my job to tell them, it's actually not what happens when you write the bill that way. And this is actually how much it's going to cost. It's not revenue neutral. So that was my big job. Prior to that, because somebody decided that I could handle legislators really well, I had a whole different career in life. I was actually a tour manager for musicians and bands. I guarantee you it's still the same amount of spreadsheet work that I do today that I did back then. Along with some professional babysitting. So, it really did help prepare me for a lot in terms of just the leadership and like working with boards and working with lots of unique individuals across this country, across the state. So that's kind of my background and everything as well. I'll hand it over to Jan.
I'm Jan Miller-Hook, School Finance Director, finishing up my 5th year with the association. 20 years public ed, most of that it was CFO at Johnston, 15 years. I was also at Urbandale in West Des Moines. Prior to that, higher ed, 14 years, Simpson College, Southwestern Community College. And this is where, the more you talk, the more how old you sound, right? Okay. Prior to that, I was a bank auditor, and I also served as Harrison County Magistrate.
Thank you, guys. And with that, I will actually turn it over to you to facilitate our retreat for tonight. We're going to cover, just as a reminder, school finance and just board governance in 2 sections, but I will let you all direct us.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate the invite to your district. I like to say being invited to your district, for me, it's the equivalent of if you invited me to your home. It's a big deal. I appreciate the fact I work out of my home office in Southeast Iowa. I have the shortest drive. That never, ever happens, so it's super exciting for me. So before we get started, I want to just give a quick acknowledgement too. We have a program at IASB that's called the Annual Board Award. We call it the ABA Award. Some of us in the room, me, might be old enough to remember ABBA, and every time I look at it, that's what I think of. Those of you who are laughing are with me, that's good. The Annual Board Award recognizes board members for their learning. whether it's in person, whether it's a webinar you capture. And it is an hour of learning, is an hour of seat time, is an hour of learning. Over the course of the year, when you earn 15 hours, you are recognized for that award. For boards that have a majority of their team that earns, the board is recognized. Now the year starts at a funny time. You might guess July, which would be a lovely guess. That's not the answer I'm looking for. You might guess January, which would be super logical. Also not the answer I'm looking for. It starts in November. Y'all have until October 31st still to earn hours. Ruthina, you've got 18 hours already. That doesn't include tonight. You've already earned your award, which is beautiful. Jennifer, 17 hours. Also beautiful. Michelle, you've got 8 hours. Amy, because she never stops learning, she's got 8 hours. Who's Michelle?
I think it's Mitchell.
Oh, Mitchell.
Michelle.
It happened at my high school graduation.
Mitchell, so sorry. I should also,
Sorry. I know it's funny.
I should also clean my glasses. That's what I'm going to do when I sit down. Mitch, how do you feel about sweets? I think I owe you my cookie. I'm so sorry. 8 hours strong. Here's my personal challenge to all of you. There is no reason that the Iowa City Community School District School Board should not be one of the boards that is recognized for the team award. Out of 324 school districts, how many people would you guess, how many boards would you guess last year earned the board award? I mean, it's a lot of districts, so it's got to be a big number, right?
Guessing a third. 33%.
Okay. Anybody else? It was less than 40. Isn't that ridiculous? Y'all need to be in that number this year. That's what I'm going to say. And you're halfway there with 2, and you're really close because you're going to get hours after tonight as well. So between Amy and Ruthina, you may get really annoying emails from me because I'm going to drag y'all across the finish line before October 31st. So, all right, enough of that. Let's talk about what your work's going to be tonight. If you've not been through a workshop with IASB, I always like to say we are not sit and get. You're going to do all the heavy lifting. We're just here to guide you through the process. Mike and Jan take you through the really hard stuff, the number stuff. You would not want me to do that. We all have a gift. That's not a gift. But what I do want to start tonight off is, let's just acknowledge it's been a year. I've watched from not far away. I've read each article, each thing. I truly, there were times that my heart went out to all of you. My own experience was whatever may have been published in the media, there was some accuracy to. I was never misquoted. But I was quoted the middle of the sentence. I'm like, what happened about what I said right before, and what about happened what I said right after? So you should know that we've watched that, and it's been top of mind. What I don't want tonight to be about is rehashing where you've been. Because we can't change what's back here. But your future's bright. So we're going to look forward tonight. I have this little picture up here of looking out of the windshield, and then you'll see the little corner is a rearview mirror. Watching what's in your rearview mirror is apparently important, or my husband reminds me of that in my driving, right? Are you watching who's following you or watching the cars behind you? But the windshield's bigger on purpose, because I need to think about where I'm going. So I want to acknowledge, I've not been in your shoes, like I said, it's been a year. But I want to talk about what you want to do going forward with that. So your very first exercise tonight is, I'm calling it Leave Behind and Take Forward. You have sticky notes on your tables. You have markers. This is where you have to follow really clear directions. Or I have to make sure I give really good directions. On the orange sticky note, you might call it yellow. I call it more orange than yellow. I want you to write down what is one thing from the past that we need to leave behind. On the green sticky note, I want you to write down what is one lesson that we have learned that we should carry forward. So one thing you want to leave behind, one thing you want to keep. This is not about naming names. This is not about naming specific incidences. This is not saying, if I were sitting on your board, well, Tammy should have done this differently. That's lovely. That's not what we're looking for. Okay? So one thing you want to leave behind, and one thing that you learned in this last year or so that, yep, this thing, we need to remember this going forward. Now, I have 29-year-old eyes, so I need big, you will use the markers and write big, that would help. I'm also not worried about your spelling. If you're like, oh my gosh, what if I spelled the word wrong? I am not at all worried about that. You get the thought down? One thing we're going to leave behind, one thing that we're going to carry forward. Gonna give you a few more minutes to capture your thought. What are you leaving behind? What's in the rearview mirror? What do you want to carry forward? Looking out the windshield. All right, does everybody have your leave behind and carry forward? You have lots of room to move tonight. I would be remiss if I didn't say you have a beautiful gift in the room. Do you know what it is?
The gift of love.
The gift of love, Mitchell, I love that. I'm going to say your name 47 times tonight, poor guy. You all, yes, if that is not the answer I'm looking for, but yes, that is also a gift.
Cash? Expanding authority?
Also beautiful. You need to butter that.
Never mind
Kurt's
then.
positive outlook about
What else?
It's being recorded.
I'm sorry.
all kinds of perspectives.
Lots of perspectives.
Yes.
It's just you and the room tonight. We can have a beautiful conversation. There will be times, the rest of my team is really nice. I'm usually the mean one who will say, tell me more about, just because I want you to dig into that conversation. So take advantage of that. Tonight, I remember how I felt when I'm sitting in a room and there was press present. It just, well, it was probably a good thing because it slowed my thinking down a lot, or at least what came out of my mouth. But I get. So that's a beautiful gift in the room tonight, okay? And you are being recorded. That was also a beautiful reminder to as well. All right, here's what I want you to do. Take your 2 pieces of paper. I want you to stand up. You're going to get some back to your spot. I want you to stand up. I want you to go talk to someone that's not sitting at your table. And I want you to share what you wrote. And sharing what you wrote does not mean just going, hey, Mitch, here's my 2 pieces of paper, you give me yours and I'll read it. I want you to talk to each other. What did you write and why? What does it mean?
That's fine.
Oh, it's similar.
It's close.
I will ask him.
People leave behind. Frustrations within myself about that.
All right, so what are we receiving?
Oh, yeah. And then this, you don't know, people.
I read your list. This is beautiful.
Anyway, I'm just gonna end. It's a lot of hard work that goes into making this. That's what I
You
was.
know, here's go like, you keep going till you get yes. I think at some point we have to decide to be the line. And that's where it's at. Because that's kind of how we got position of the headlights. One of the things I've said a lot this year, I don't think I've said it before, maybe a few of them, that we're trying to please everyone. And we were pleasing everyone. And now we please no one. Because we have no money. Things like, we're trying to make everything to everybody.
Yeah.
No, yeah. And so that's the part that can sit back.
Been carrying this for 6 hours.
It's good and warm.
Probably gonna open it up outside, just in case.
And I sincerely meant it.
Yeah. That's what this year's gonna be, what's important.
I'm like, come on, man. Yes. And I think the text message started off with, holy crap. Oh, we're gonna, yeah. No, seriously. I'm like, you're right, because they're in wrong now. Because, and I think that matters to acknowledge.
I'm so sorry.
We're like, who's Michelle?
And it's not correctly. Like, it is. And
See, and that's the acknowledging what goes into making things happen daily for us that we don't all the time celebrate.
They didn't care that we here.
So is this your carry forward?
That's true. I mean, it's even like, this boils down to me. Sometimes it's rightfully so. Absolutely. But when I walk into buildings, I think about the custodians because I know how when you get there, sidewalks clear, trash clear. They put in a lot of work to make that happen.
Absolutely every cog in the machine is critical to the mission.
Exactly. Yep.
Very finance oriented. As I said, I'm a little more hippie.
I like that.
And think about what I could say without having that.
once you've shared, bring your sticky notes up and let's put them up here. Leave behind on the left, carry forward on the right.
Really good reason to start. The school finance side, because the school districts are limited. Moving forward,
Now, don't go too far. You might want to look at what your peers wrote, because I might ask you a question or two.
Nice pants, Jennifer.
I think that's really important.
They are.
We're just,
Okay. There's a mystery.
Okie dokie.
I'm gonna make an effort to wear bold pants always.
okay, please do.
Please do.
Do you want me to put it up for you?
That's teamwork.
They just put on. Again, yesterday. That's okay. Okay, I haven't read it yet.
That's what I heard. Tell me something you heard, not something you wrote. Tell me something you heard from your partner that they want to leave behind. And by the way, let's be clear, leaving behind doesn't mean it might have had its place, but what do you want to leave behind?
We had a good conversation about leaving behind saying yes to everything.
Yes.
That was from Kurt.
Will you or Kurt, will you, if I do this, that whole pinch and make them bigger? It's amazing no matter where I stand. It was funny, I mean, but true too. Will you share a little bit more about, either Kurt share or will you share what he said about what does that mean?
I'll say what I heard and you correct me or refine it. So he was pointing out that that it's impossible to make everybody happy, and we have sort of collectively fallen into a habit of saying, or a culture of pursuing yes to ideas, and that has contributed to the challenges we're facing, and then also all of that results in making nobody happy. And so by narrowing the focus and importance, you're able to operate better and with happier people. I don't know.
Well, that was good. The classic phrase I've said, and I've said it to some of you, is if we're pleasing everyone, we're pleasing no one. And we spent years pleasing everyone, and now no one's pleased. And so just because one teacher says something or one building administrator stands up and says something, like, listen to them, but we don't have to say yes. That we do have to have some lines in the sand, but we just can't do that anymore. And we have that perfect excuse right now. We just don't have a lot of flexibility.
Beautiful. What else did you hear?
So I just heard, we have the perfect excuse, we have the perfect opportunity to,
Yeah.
so just like regroup. I like it.
What else did you hear?
I would say Ruthina talked about the personal frustrations about abilities. I think just having been through what you've all been through, it's natural to maybe feel some self-doubt about, am I in the role that I should be? Should I be serving here? And that's what she was echoing. Yep.
I like to acknowledge the hard work that's often happening behind the scenes, but I don't think that, like, all of our focus has been on budget and budgetary issues. None of that is really acknowledging the work that is going on within the buildings or within the classroom or even within here to try to right the ship, or, well, in here it's righting the ship, but in the classrooms it's just the everyday, what matters, and getting kids the resources that they need, and the
That's a
teachers.
carry forward, yes?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, the
Okay.
carry. Sorry, did I skip lead behind to
Yeah.
carry forward? Sometimes I do that.
You get to do that
Oh.
after I called you by the wrong name.
And now you're even.
That's definitely, what I just said is definitely not a leave behind, that's a carry forward.
I just wanted to clarify. Do you want to share a leave behind that you heard?
I think a lot of it is the negative comments and commentary.
I shared with one group, I read them, a lot of them, maybe not all of them, but man, I read them, and please leave those I don't know, at mile marker 0. No, that's right, anybody gets to go. It's hard. Okay?
So Tammy, we're still talking about what our partner wrote in terms of carrying forward.
Yes.
Okay. I think Lisa had a lot to say that's important about celebrating what is happening in the classroom actually at every board meeting. I'm not sure if you said every board meeting, but continuously, publicly, and strongly. Because, well, I shouldn't have so many becauses in my philosophy. What's occurring in this district in classrooms with students is a remarkable thing, a beautiful thing, and an important thing in the lives of every student in this district. And that is centrally why I think all of us are here. And that should be our story, no matter what the damn TV station broadcast.
I like that statement a lot. You will see in these slides, I perused through your social media. I borrowed your pictures without guilt. And it sure looks like to me through those pictures you have a whole lot to celebrate. I saw just such fun pictures, so I love that. And I do think that's important to talk about. Okay? What else did you hear that you want to carry forward?
I'll share. Amy's was lead with curiosity. So, wanting to dive deeper into things to be a better leader.
Love that. Anybody else want to share a carry forward? I see one on here that says, together we can find common ground and move forward. And what I would say is also tonight is not about agreeing on everything all the time. But the Iowa City Community School District and every student, which by the way, all in for all kids. Y'all didn't say all in for some kids. You didn't say all in for the kids we like, all in for the kids that aren't naughty. You said all in for all kids. And you are clearly here for a reason. You are absolutely capable to sit around this table, and they are counting on you to do that work together. And I'm certain you will continue to do that. But when I read that list, that one also jumped out at me. Okay, I'll let you sit down and do your next exercise. The very front part of your packet, by the way, has the 4 of our names, our contact information. I will share with you that the best way to reach me is on the front of that packet. And because I spend a lot of time, me and Interstate 80, you have a good chance that there's 2 nights a week that you might catch me on the road. So if you call me between 8 and 10 p.m. and I'm driving, I'll answer. If I'm not, you can leave a message and I'll call you back in the morning. But please reach out to us. That is why we exist, is to serve you all. So when you need something, call. We also have the slides so that if there is a slide that has a corresponding number in your workbook, you'll find it there. So we're going to go to page 3. And here is my next question for you. What do you want your next chapter to look like? Your past has a story. You just talked about it. You just said some pieces you want to leave behind, and you talked about some important things you want to carry forward. But your future is a choice, and it's your choice. So my question to you is, if we're all sitting here 3 years from now, and one of you says, this board became a much stronger team, which does not mean you are not a stronger team today, or strong team today, but you became even stronger. What are 3 things that would have changed? And I'm going to ask you to use the half sheets of paper that are now don't have any color. They're very fancily cut. So I sat on the floor of my office, by the way. You'll need 3 because I want each thing to be able to be on a sheet of piece of paper. I cut a lot of paper, y'all, so if you need more, let me know. 3 things. What are 3 things that would have changed for this board to be a stronger team? And these are statements that probably include we versus I'm gonna do, but what are we gonna do together? Okay? 3 things, 3 pieces of paper. Spelling doesn't count. I don't need great grammar. It can be a soliloquy or it can be 2 words.
Good. What are you doing there, girl? I told Paul with my feet.
What about a haiku?
It could be a haiku. That would be very impressive.
Limerick.
Thank you. If you want to write more than 3, if you're the overachiever, you are, by the way, welcome to do that.
But yeah, I mean, the only one on there. Superintendent, it's under discussion, not anything under it.
All right, got your 3 things? Yes. Some yes, some not. All right, we need just a couple minutes. Amy said we had to be done by 10, so we're on.
Every hour goes an hour closer to every hour.
Right?
That's right. Just do their whole 15 right now.
Yeah, Amy and I did not say that. That was not what she said. But I appreciate that you all giggled.
No.
Don't overthink your answer. It will be incredible no matter what you write.
Yep.
All right, here's your next task. It gets harder. You're gonna take your 3 sheets of paper. You're gonna get up, because it's good for you to move. It might be time for your stand hour, I don't know. And you're gonna talk to somebody you did not talk to last time. And remember, you're actually gonna talk to them. You're gonna not just say, hey Jennifer, here's my 3 pieces of paper, trade me. You're gonna talk about them, and a group of 3 is fine, if we need a group of 3.
I think we're even now.
Are we even? I don't math well, and I didn't take off my shoes to count and the whole thing, so there you go.
Go.
No, this one's good for you.
Okay.
I'm sure your policies are followed very.
Okay.
Okay.
Really in our situations in the public sphere.
Right, the money shift. Okay, that's good.
And what the better,
Able to disagree and keep moving forward, and hire a superintendent that kept us moving forward. Okay. Yep. I wrote.
Yeah, kind of more that direction. We're thinking about
Bright red. Those are days.
That's my life, giving them the absolute. I stole from her before saying yes. Ask questions.
That's these two probably going in and we can write the money shift. Hopefully.
She came from someone.
She did? Yep. Highest gift we ever got.
Why is that?
Looking forward to
Where did he
the
come
1st of
from?
September, and seeing everything calms down. That's it, after that? Yeah. It's
Because the
that
board
first.
decided to do like an interim.
I joke
That's
with you that all my
person.
Who's your third?
He's our
You're putting in your extra hours.
everything that it is important, but maybe some things just bring it back.
And just having everybody back in the building.
But didn't the board have a vote for an HR position?
I was gonna do the Iowa nice thing.
Once you share your 3 things,
Okay, so they're gonna do that.
grab a piece of tape and tape them up. When you share your 3 things, grab a piece of tape and tape them up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tammy, grab a piece of tape.
Grab a piece of tape, fancily cut along the pillar there, and you're gonna tape it up.
Okay, I got yours,
It's
Jamie.
3 things.
Well, they had a house. My dad said no. this college community.
Instead of up and down, some of the items are. Right. But for the ones that are discussing.
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, maybe there's some things that.
I was standing on my tippy toes, but.
I like to be when I'm writing. Let's make that, I'm still thinking about the short lawn.
You guys, you have Regina in town.
Private school, yep.
No, is there any others that have popped up?
There's, okay, Regina's a private school. I think there's a couple of like charter schools. I'm trying to think of what they are. Faith Academy, I think, is one. There's two, but I can't.
Because I noticed charters, I think, have focused mainly on Cedar Rapids. I'd have to look at the list. But the reality is Iowa City could be a target for future charter school expansion.
Yep.
I thought, oh my gosh, charter schools wasn't as big of an issue
tried because I have
when I was
6
a
now.
student, but the vouchers, I thought, oh my gosh, so hard. Because I told Norwalk, the board, I'm like, this is gonna negatively impact our district because we are an increasingly affluent district. And now a former board member came to me after and was like, I didn't really think.
I was trying to,
Like,
sorry, I was trying to
that
be
you were
proactive and watch.
accurate with that. He goes,
I've never, ever had it in my entire
Not at all.
life.
Yep, and it was.
No one asked for you to chime in. I was gonna say, who's gonna fill that opening? Amy's
because
gonna fill that middle.
there are a lot of private school options in the
Tell me something you heard.
Catholic school.
3 things. What are
Sure.
3 things that would have
And then,
changed that would make this board even stronger
and then
3 years from now? What will you all
There
say?
are a few that are not religious affiliated, but there's a lot. in the majority. And some, most are
Make
not
decisions
new.
to regain the community's trust.
Love it. Okay. Love it. What else?
I see there's a broad sphere of communication. That's what I would.
What does that mean? What do you, Mitch, when you, it is a beautiful poll from what you're seeing, but what is it? Tell me more. Does it mean communication like I need to be able to read better so that I know it's Mitch and not Michelle? Which is a form of communication. I'm not unchecking the box until I leave, y'all, because I feel awful. Is it, where does that communication happen?
And for me, I have children under 3. So it puts me in a sphere where I can't really leave my house without being in those kind of authentic situations with parents. If I go to the Science Museum, I'm guaranteed to have a conversation about the school district. If I go to the park, I'm guaranteed to have a conversation. I met with the principal a few weeks ago, and I told him, I go, I'm going to go outside to that. We met at Bright Garden. I go, later tonight, we're going to go get our free wine samples, and I'm going to go out to that park. Because Bright Garden does free wine. Well,
Does it say free wine samples?
Yes, at Bright Garden Friday night. I'll get my free wine, and then I'm going to be out playing with the playground. And I'm going to be approached by at least 2 parents. Because that is typically every Friday night for me. So that's the way I know not everybody can be in those situations, but that is the way that I have placed myself in authentic situations. And people come up, they're like, well, you're playing with the kids. I'm like, you know what, I'm here for it. So that's how I kind of see it. Like there's communication situations where I can go to a political fundraiser. That's not necessarily authentic to me because that is, everybody has their game face on for that. But when I put myself in those other situations where I'm not going to talk, that's at least for me. And I don't know, it's not everybody's communication style or the way that they're if they feel comfortable, but that's just kind of the way I move in the community.
Okay, so communication from your constituents to you is what I'm hearing you say. That, lovely. Who else, did anyone else write communication that might have thought of that in a little different way?
One of the things Molly and I talked about was the relationship between communication and trust and the role of each in the other. So, being able to develop communication that meets that essentially satisfies our community, gives them what they're looking for and needing from us, and also creating ways for the board as a whole to receive valuable information and communication from the community. So a two-way thing, and the more you can do that, the more you can build trust, and the more trust you have, the more you communicate. So they work together.
Big circle, right? It makes it a cycle. Okay, like that. What else did you hear? I promise I'm not Snapchatting. I took the picture and I am looking at what you wrote. So. There's lots of beautiful things. Y'all have to claim what you wrote. It goes much faster, by the way. The night doesn't seem to drag as much when y'all participate. So tell me, what else? What else did you hear?
One thing that's, I think, an interesting perspective is, I think Kurt talked about not sweating the small stuff, which I think would mean that there's a deliberate intent to maybe recognize when something is not of significant impact on what the district is experiencing, how we're doing our instructional mission. And that some things we can deliberately set up a process for that to actually bring to the board table. And I think that's a challenging concept. We're supposed to be evaluating this as we go along here. I think that's a challenging concept. I also think it's a perspective. I suspect it's a perspective that staff members have about issues that I don't have because of their involvement, what they have to do, what they're responsible for, and what they say we don't have to be concerned about.
One person's definition of small can be another person's definition of big.
Yeah, totally necessary. But that's, we're in the part, besides the educational process, part of that is the decision-making process. And maybe communicating why it's not something we're going to be spending time on.
Thank you, that's great. Anything else you want to pull? I love the one right in the middle that says learning together. That's a really important piece, right? You each bring a different lens to the table, and learning together can also mean learning from each other as well, right? Yeah. While everyone rushes to figure out what to do to my laptop.
You need your password.
Oh, because I have to, I don't know, cure to polio on here or something, right? And that's why it's,
See, we're just modeling good behavior, like we
There you
do
go.
not share passwords. Very good.
There you go. All right. I'm going to, so we're going to come back, by the way, and we're going to revisit that a little bit later tonight. You're not quite off the hook, but I am going to pass it to DT, and he's going to take you through, look at that good-looking board, look at that good-looking group of humans. I almost said, look at that good-looking board, and I gave it away. Would you like this? Because you have more than one slide.
I do, thanks. So appreciate this. And by the way, This will go a little bit quicker if you don't correct Tammy when she's wrong, like about names, but it won't be as funny if you don't correct them. So please continue correcting those mistakes. Same for me, right? So appreciate you being here tonight. Thanks for having us out. I can't give you the details quite yet, but it's something that we've been inspired at ISB by the great storytelling that's going on in the Iowa City School District. You presented a board con, I believe it was, last board con? Was it board con or summit? It was board con? And just about the storytelling you're doing and the marketing you're doing for your district. Amazing, we have so many great comments about that. So I'll just give you a little sneak peek. There's going to be something about kind of down that pathway that's going to come out here in early September that we're pushing out to members. So thank you for helping be part of that inspiration as we go forward. Carolyn Johns. Carolyn Johns is former school board member from Ames. She's actually a board member when I went through Ames, and her daughter and I were in the same class. Carolyn pointed to, and up here, there's a comment that says, we want to go so that only the learning is carried forward. And so the learning is what we're going to talk about on this slide. And so Carolyn was very passionate about board work, which so like, I think we can do something more than just buses and budgets and buildings. And so her focus is really on student achievement. So through that, her efforts and other past ISD staff members and also other board members came about the Lighthouse Research. You've all received a hard copy of our book, Leadership for Student Learning. Tammy has a copy right there. And so we have a companion study guide. But out of that, we learned 10 things, 5 principles that came out of that. One, set clear expectations. And I think, the Iowa City Board has modeled this, I know, in the past, and will continue to do so moving forward. You have to do some additional work, right? You have to attend to some financial reports that maybe weren't quite as important in the past, but now you're doing some of that. You got to show your community we're doing our due diligence and we're monitoring those end reports. So setting clear expectations, create conditions for success. This is important, this number 2, because some organizations, I would say at times, maybe a little bit, our state legislature gets this wrong, is they go to number 3, hold the system accountable without creating the conditions for success. We know that people can achieve great things when they have a fertile environment to grow and to improve and produce results. So hold the system accountable to the expectations. And that's a lot of what you're going through right now, right? Your community is holding the board accountable, the board is holding administration accountable, et cetera, et cetera. Build collective will. And so that's where I'll point to your storytelling, is when you can generate that support, that collective will makes some of that decision making and producing results a little bit easier. And then finally, learn together as a board team. I mean, tonight, here we are. Good job. And so that's what we found for principles of highly effective boards and moving the needle on student achievement to higher levels. These are the 5 principles that high-quality boards pursue. And so thank you for the work you do in those 5 areas and being a role model for a lot of other districts in the state of Iowa. Now, a couple other takeaways, 5 additional takeaways from the Lighthouse study. So boards that go down this pathway, they operate a bit differently, some other boards that don't raise student achievement to the levels that we're talking about. And so now, the challenge of this is that this is a particular board at a particular moment in time. Just because you have done this doesn't mean it's going to continue into the future. You have to be purposeful with learning events like tonight, and you have to keep your eye on the ball. And so consistently express the belief that all students can learn. We certainly believe that at ISB. And I would say our public school districts are the best positioned in the state as schools of choice to do that exact thing, right? We welcome all students, and we believe all students can learn. Maybe not on the same day, maybe not in the same way, but all students can learn. We're far more knowledgeable about teaching and learning. It is perfectly acceptable for board members to get into conversations about teaching and learning, because you are allocating resources, you are making decisions that have effect on student learning. Now, you're not in the classrooms every day doing the work, but you are influencing the policy, the procedures, the budgeting, et cetera, that's going to have that impact. So what we see as boards through the Lighthouse study, they're more knowledgeable about teaching and learning. Use data to make decisions. Do you feel like you're drowning in data right now, or are you feeling like you're doing all right?
We're always data-rich in information form.
Very good. And so using data, and of course, we know that accurate data is where it's at. So when you have that accurate data, you can make those principled informed decisions. And so this is such a key aspect for highly effective boards. Supportive workplace for staff, and that goes back to creating conditions for success. That is an always moving target, right? But this should be a focus for your board down the Lighthouse research principles that we've established, and then involving their communities. Mitch, I love the description of that. Now I got to find out where the free wine is at. Maybe when I'm next, and obviously my younger sister lives here, so maybe not. I'm the clock, so I appreciate that. But yeah, so getting out and being involved in your community is such a great way to lead. And so these are the 10, again, back to the 5 principles for highly effective boards in raising student achievement, and then also these 10 traits that boards tend to display. Any questions about that or thoughts? Again, in a point of personal privilege, Jay, I just want to say thank you to you. What's your position again in the medical field?
PA.
Very good, thank you. I've had a family member that was just in the hospital for about 21 days. And so just the whole health system, just so appreciative of the work that you and your profession does every day. Yeah, absolutely. Tammy?
All right, they're not quite tired of hearing from me yet. Good, nobody laughed. Okay, shoo! Let's look at page 7 in your packet. Wouldn't be an IASB workshop if we didn't just take a little bit of time to talk about governance and management. We purposefully say and, we don't say versus, because you need both. The top half of the page comes from this book, The Governance Core 2.0. If you're looking for a book study, and after you do the Leadership for Student Learning, this is a great opportunity for a book to do. We get no royalties from the book, by the way, but it is really good. I think for me, I'm not a great reader. I struggled to read as a child. I still struggle to read as an adult. When I sit down and I try and read at night, what might you guess happens? Well, there's probably a lot of things, but the first thing that might happen when I sit down on the couch and I read,
You find other things to do?
well, I find other things to do, including I check for light leaks in my eyes. So I close them to see if there's any light leaking in. But I will say, if I can read this book, friends, anybody can. I think what I really, truly, it resonates with me because it's written about, I'm going to say us, I'm going to talk like I'm still a board member. It's written about board members. So there's a great perspective. The top half of your page, on page 7, comes from that book. I'm going to give you just a minute to read that top half above the box that's there, and just circle or highlight anything that resonates with you. Who would like to share? What is something that resonated with you? What is something you circle, put a star next to, underline?
Governance to steer a ship. I left off the Greek word, because I wouldn't be able to pronounce it anyway.
Kubernetes is the Greek word, only because you can go to the Googler and ask it to say it 400 times till you get it, right? Kubernetes says that the Greek word governance comes from to steer. And I'm a visual learner, so I think about steering a ship. It's exactly what y'all are doing. In fact, somebody even said we were able to right the ship Your top 3 things, right? And y'all, you're steering a ship, not a jet ski. I hear they steer a little bit differently. And so that makes a difference. Beautiful. What else?
I found the idea of connection really kind of a different way of thinking about it for me. I mean, the steering and rowing, I like the what versus how, but that idea of being a connection in between the examples listed there was helpful to me.
You'll notice in the box down below, the word collaboration is right in the middle, because there's that piece of connection that has to happen. And there are times, and there will be times in your board career, and now may feel like one of them, where you found yourself stepping more into that management position just for pressure you've received, maybe comments you've received, maybe just work that needed to be done. And now you'll find that there will be times where there's then a shift to say, hey, I can step over to the other side, it's okay. Or that you have this healthy relationship as a team, because it's a board superintendent team. And by the way, she's not doing this on her own, right? She has an incredible cabinet behind her. But as your one employee, that you are all together saying, okay, you're a little into my lane. Will you please put it in reverse a little bit and shimmy over to the other side, right? Or however you all talk about that. That becomes really important. I too, Jennifer, really like the what and the how. You all sit at this table because naturally in your life you are wired to be doers. If I said, Mitch, we had a little boo-boo and tomorrow those 4,000 cupcakes we were supposed to have, something happened, and he'd go, yeah, I gotcha. And I could go right around to, and Jennifer, and we had this little busing thing happen, and so we need 4,000 kids, and you'd be like, yeah, I got you. And I could do that all the way around the table, and you all would say yes before I even finished my sentence. Doesn't mean you all would go do it, but you're all like, yeah, I know somebody who can make cupcakes. Yeah, I know somebody who can drive. Because it's what you do. It's how you're wired. Then you come to this table and you say, oh, we want to have a celebration? Great, we approve that. Somebody else is going to figure out the cupcakes. Somebody else is going to figure out the busing, right? But the what is, we want to celebrate. And Amy, good luck figuring out 4,000 cupcakes or whatever it's going to be. She may say, I'd rather it be pancakes. So that what and that how, fabulous. And I encourage you to always be thinking about that bigger picture of what are you wanting to accomplish? And let your staff guide you on how are you going to get me there. Tell us, remember we want to be curious. I want to understand enough of what is going to happen. And I'm probably going to ask some questions like, do we have any risk we need to mitigate? How long is it going to take? And do you feel really good that you can knock it out of the park in whatever, 3 days, 3 weeks, whatever that takes, right? But that I'm not necessarily saying, hey, walk me through your project management plan of the 72 rows you have of all the things, right? They're going to happen. What else? What else did you notice in that section?
I think for these 2 columns, to be able to work together, you need trust. You trust that policies are going to be followed, trust that the information that you're receiving is accurate, trust that they are doing what they need to be doing. For me, that trust is broken. And it's going to be, we talk about trust with the community. I have trust issues with the administration. And I don't know how we're going to get that back.
I think it's really important that you just exactly, you said what you said, right? Now, there is no doubt in my mind, I know exactly how you feel. And trust isn't always easy to just say, once it's broken, we're just gonna whoosh, 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 and fix, right? But you are gonna spend some time tonight talking about, so what are those 3 things, right? What 3 things need to happen? I'm gonna guess for you is I gotta have some trust built up to say, yeah, we are even stronger than we were. And I don't think it's uncommon after what you've been through that would be something somebody would say. DT, did you have something you were going to add?
You know, one thing that's really resonated with me, if you look at page 7, and this is through some different executive leadership courses and things like that, is think about what you do. The challenge that Tammy so definitely identified is maybe what you do in your day-to-day work is more on the management side, that tactical. So I think about tactics. That's the purview of teachers and of administration, management, et cetera. And the board operates at that strategic level. And right now, some of that is blurred, right? And that becomes a challenge. And then what stands in the middle of that collaboration? That's the interpersonal relationships and those skills. And that's what I think for this board is going to get you through. Like those interpersonal skills is how you get back to some of that trust. And then you just have to, as a board, pay attention to some more of those tactical items, those monthly financial reports. Is the board, following all the board policies as it relates to interfund loans, et cetera. And so that is just the reality. And you have to wear, some steel-toed shoes right now. That's part of your personal, efforts that you have that are going on right now. But I think this tension, when you have highly effective organizations that are taking care of business, the board is able to stay at that strategic level, and the management takes care of the tactical, informs the strategic, sure, and then the interpersonal works. And so when you get out of whack a little bit, it's hard. And so what you're going through right now, outside looking in, it's hard. And I've been part of organizations that have been in those positions before. The good news is, like, you do the things, right? You have good strategy. You follow your strategic plan. The tactics are being managed well by administration, and that trust will come back, I have no doubt, in future board iterations with the community. It's going to be really hard right now. So thank you, yes, for articulating that.
When you say dance floor tactics, what exactly do you mean?
Dance, so when we talk about...
I'm sorry, because the metaphor's not super...
No, that's okay. So when we say balcony, so think about it going from left to right.
Yeah.
So balcony, we say, let's think about this. Pretend you're all standing on a balcony with me and you're watching a dance. Let's maybe not think it's a high school dance, okay? And you're watching the dance floor. What kinds of things might you see from the balcony? So you're standing on the balcony and you're looking down at a dance floor. What are you going to see?
Bad dancing, good dancing, and mediocre dancing.
Okay, beautiful. I'm going to see some people who are really good on their feet, some who aren't, and some are Okay, what else will you see?
The tops of people's heads.
Okay, tops of people's heads. So I'm going to, if they're wearing a hat, I'm going to see a hat very differently, right? Because I'm looking from the top down. I may be missing some of the cool elements of it. What else?
Go ahead. Some people not dancing.
Yeah. I may have some wallflowers like me who would be standing alongside that roofing. You can laugh harder at that.
No, Pat said something and I was laughing.
No, it was, it should have only taken me 32 seconds, so I'm not a wallflower. People see, when I'm not dancing, what happens when the music changes from slow to fast? What do you notice on the dance floor?
It gets reorganized.
It's reshuffled, right?
Yeah.
What happens if a busload of people arrived and 50 more people walk onto the dance floor? What do you notice?
It gets reorganized.
It gets reorganized. When you are on the dance floor, what are you focusing on? You personally, you are on the dance floor. What are you focusing on?
My wife.
Okay, your partner.
Good answer.
The music.
The music. Probably making sure while you're cutting up a rug, you're not like biffing the person next to you inadvertently, right? You'll miss the 50 people that just walked onto the dance floor, right? You'll miss the music, the DJ changed the music, and all of a sudden, nobody wants to slow dance, and so everybody exits the dance floor. You will experience that differently. I think about the top of a puzzle box. I have to see what the picture looks like. There's more than 10 pieces, and I'm doing it by myself. I'm out. I'm just going to tell you right now. I need to see the picture, though, so I know where I'm starting even to put that puzzle together. Mitch, does that help thinking about that balcony view? Is that's your governance level view. You're not picking the music. We all know the fun stuff happens when they play the YMCA, when they play the chicken dance, when they play the Macarena, whatever kids are dancing to these days. None of those things, probably. But that's where the fun happens. But at the balcony, you're watching for patterns. You're watching for, are they out of snacks? You're watching for who's dancing when. you're concerned when all of a sudden you know you have a limit of whatever, 300 people, and it looks like there's 600 on the floor, and the fire marshal's gonna call, right? It looks very different, okay? All right. Does that help? Does that give us a little bit of a foundation on governance and management? We often think of this as well when we think of our people in our district as well, right? When staff comes to us and says, hey, I want to talk to you about da-da-da-da-da-da. And Mitch, I love the playground story and about parents contacting you. And I will also say, as board members, I strongly believe you get to set boundaries. You get to say, I so want to hear what you have to say, but tonight, I am here to watch 75 on the soccer field. And tonight, number 75 gets 100% of my attention. But tomorrow morning, if you want to call me, I will give you 100% of my attention. Really great to see you, thanks. I'm done, and you get to do that. You can't do it all the time, I understand that, but you get to do that. Because if you can't protect that time as well for your own family, P.S. sometimes it's a really great way to get out of a conversation that you're hearing way too much detail that's not governance. That's also a good way to exit the conversation. All right, next up, the ever exciting, the part I know you're all dying to be here for. Mike's not even looking at me. No. It's the numbers part.
Is it our part?
It's you, buddy. And he's going to take you to page 9. Listen, they're a little rowdy. You're going to have to work to keep them in control.
I know.
Would you like the clicker, or would you like me to be your Vanna tonight?
I will, the latter. You go. So, I want to take a look.
I didn't really mean it. I wasn't really offering.
Yeah, you offered. I want to pull a couple of these in here real quick first. So, and I'll borrow them, and we'll put them back. Let's see if I can do this without totally messing everything up. Because all these are great, but I think there's a couple on here, 3 of them, that I think are really cool. Trust the team. So that came up. I thought that was really good. We go learning together. So Tammy, let's see how many, I'm only going to do 2 analogies, and I'll try and keep it to 2 minutes. And then we'll get into the fun stuff. So Tammy has kind of done, everybody seen the Karate Kid movie? The original, right? We all know the Karate Kid movie at least, right? So everybody's, the kid's doing his, painting the walls, waxing the car and everything. That kind of Tammy's been kind of working through that, right? Now we get to the fun part where we're going to practice on this. But I really like these because, one, the trust issues, like that has to be acknowledged. And part of what we're going to do now is finding ways to start that, but at that governance level, like Tammy was talking about, at that high level. Because, and we're going to do this together, we're going to be learning together, but don't sweat the small stuff. That's really what we want to try and separate out, right? We don't want to focus on those narrow things and lose track of the bigger picture. We want to keep everything at that governance level. There was, 1972, Eastern Airlines, Flight 401, crashed into the Everglades. You know why it crashed? Those pilots were worried about a light bulb that burnt out. And they didn't realize that the plane had just kept going slowly down into the Everglades. 29-cent light bulb crashed and killed a whole bunch of people. Right? You don't want to be at that level where you're so focused on one narrow thing that you're missing the bigger picture. We want to work on getting towards the governance level. That doesn't mean that you don't question. That doesn't mean if something looks out of whack, something strange there, that you get to question that. That's your right, and you should be doing that as a board, right? And then, but you are already starting to put some stuff into place here. You got your financial oversight committee, which gets to start doing those questions, but you still get to do those questions too, right? You do get to ask your admin team staff about, hey, what's going on with this? Can we dig into this a little bit further? But don't lose sight of the bigger picture, and that sort of governance level. So in your packet, just one, quick thing. I'm not going to have you will share out actually in this part. But I'm not going to make you get up and walk around on this one. But when you're engaging in financial oversight 1 year from today, okay, what is going to be different? What's going to be noticeably different? And you can just write it down in your packet there. Using
Very nice. Pens. Pencils.
I was on Mitch. You got it? Yes. I have
I promise not to chew on it.
All right. So, as an introvert, I'm going to ask you to do one thing that I hate, and I'm going to make everybody share out. So, because I think it's important, I think that you guys got to set this. Everybody's got to hear what you have to say about what this needs to look like, what this board needs to look like a year from now when you're looking at financial oversight. So, just start right here.
All right. I'm going to say there will be some, and just a few, main indicators we have agreed are key to monitoring our position, and we will all have them top of mind.
All right. Now, Mitch, I have one thing for you. If you would like for me to call Tammy Tommy for the next year, say the word and I will do it again.
It's okay.
All right, what's yours then?
A broad, better understanding of the financial policies and ensuring that they are followed.
Okay.
Mine was the same.
Same?
Making sure that we're following the policies.
Following your policies. Okay, excellent. What do you, sir?
I wrote our knowledge of the district's revenue resources and expense obligations.
Okay.
That's pretty much what's been said.
I wrote updated monthly financial reports will have been provided.
Excellent. All right.
A full, accurate picture.
Accurate picture.
We will be more informed in diving deeper into data and information.
I love that. Excellent.
And it's pretty much the same, just engaging questions regarding the financial process, trusting the process, transparency regarding finances.
Mm-hmm.
Close, better communication between board, CFO, super regarding financials and our outlook picture.
Better communication. Okay.
All board members stop focusing on light bulbs and instead focus on the strategic vision for our long-term financial health at 10,000-foot level.
All right, governance. You guys just nailed all of them. I love it. I don't even need to be here. Okay. So we're going to revisit this, okay? So, because what we're going to get into over the course of the next two exercises is we're going to talk about what the annual sort of financial indicators look like, okay? What should that be? So we got a whole bunch of ideas, right, at ISB. We go sit in our little office, but we're not in your district. I'm not in the 323 other districts out there every single day. You guys need to work on what's good for you as your district. We can provide guidelines, we can say, hey, this is a great idea. And we'll talk about some of that, but it really needs to come from you. But we're gonna do that. There's two different levels of this, right? There's an annual. There's some stuff that you just can't get every single month. Can't get it bi-weekly, it just doesn't happen that way. Okay, some stuff you gotta just figure out. You learned it at the end of the year. So we're gonna talk about it at an annual level, but we're also gonna talk about a monthly level as you guys build up that trust again and work on being able to trust that information and that data. And what are those questions you can also ask at a monthly level. So the first one we're gonna do, our first exercise, I think there's some third little sheets of paper here. We're gonna answer that question. So when you review financial data from your district on an annual basis, okay, not on a monthly, just on an annual, what are those three questions about the data you would like to ask? So one question on each. Sorry, we gotta start over. So three pieces of paper, one question on each. If you want to add more, you're more than welcome to. Works for me. I'll cut off as many pieces of tape as we need.
Yeah, Mr. President, took you that long to notice.
By the way, while you guys are writing, because I did mention haikus, I did write one for you. It says, "You will be stronger by listening and learning, rebuilding your tree." I even included nature, as you're supposed to do, right?
Yes.
So, at least B- works. While you guys are finishing this up, remember annual, right? So we operate on fiscal years. So it ends on June 30th. Does that mean your CFO has everything ready to go on July 1? No. Right? So it does take time. There's little lovely things called accrual periods. Got to get all this data information together. We got to get it to the Department of Education. And then your CFO can start giving you and bringing forward together preliminary information, right? It doesn't happen in July. I hate to say it, it doesn't happen in August either, right? You can kind of start to get a little bit of a sense, but you really just don't. There's still so much coming in. It's probably still getting, like, we're going to get down the weeds, she's probably still getting money in from other districts for a moment. Everything. There's just so much going on, right? So this annual information gets to come a little bit later when we start getting into the fall, generally. There's some stuff you might get at different times, but just remember that, right? Just July 1, we can't expect it. All right, everybody ready? We're still working? Oh, I see. Well, if you only have a couple, it's fine too. I would love 3 from each of you, but maybe somebody else did more than 3, and they'll all add it together.
Keep writing.
Okay, so when we're ready, we're gonna go. I'm gonna take you guys for a little walk down there. Yep, it is a field trip. Andrew's got a soccer ball in there. You guys can kick it on the way if you need to do a little dribbling. Okay, so here at ISB, we have what we call our 7 general fund financial indicators, right? We've identified 7 annual indicators that we believe are important for all districts to be able to monitor. Doesn't mean that's the only one. Okay? But whatever you break down, so up here you have certified enrollment, UAB, you guys have all gotten very familiar with that one. Percent of your annual spending rate spent, right? UAB is your spending rate. Each year you get a certain amount. Solvency ratio. Okay, everybody remember what solvency ratio is? We all learned that too. All right, that's our cash side. Solvency ratio.
That's all right.
Cash, right?
Thank you.
You might have more cash, you might have less cash than your spending authority, but that solvency ratio is your cash. That's the amount, percent of your revenue that you spent that year. Salaries and benefits, because we are a people organization, very important. And then we kind of have new money percentage, settlement, right, when you are doing your negotiations with your staff. And then the changes in that salary and benefits. These are the 7 key financial indicators ISB believes are very important for all districts to monitor. It's not an inclusive list. Doesn't mean that there shouldn't be others. But what I want you to do, there's a table on there. There's a few pieces along here. I'm going to start cutting off more because I think you guys were really did a lot.
I'm on.
All right, Tommy's on it. So start putting them under each one that you think that it goes to. Okay? And you know what? If it goes to more than one, just decide. It's okay. Put it between the two if they're right next to each other. If it doesn't fit under any of them, then put it off to the side over here next to Corbin. Yeah, that's perfect. There's no test, there's no fail. That's okay. All right. Where's Pat? There you are. Yeah. Come take a walk. Yeah. Exactly. All right. So this is what your board came up with on what they might like to see annually. Let's kind of walk through it a little bit together, and let's find out. Let's see if maybe some of the stuff. How much of this can we do? Right. Certified enrollment. Yeah. Pretty easy. I think we got that one. So remember, so this is an annual, but you're going to have 2 count dates now, right? So you got October and you got January. So it's going to be important to know what the differences are between those. And you'll probably see our recommendations change a little bit on how we're going to record that as soon as we find out how the DEs plan. Okay, UAB. What is our UAB? Will the relationship between the UAB and the category funding be put in front of the district or the SBR? Category funding put the district in front of the SBRC? Are you going to be legal or not? Or semi-legal, that part where then your categoricals have been negative, it's sort of the canary in the coal mine, right? Great question. What is UAB? What do we need to do to get it to 5%?
That's supposed to be greater than 5%.
Greater than 5%, okay.
That was a former math teacher.
All right. Yeah, great question. Are we meeting our target UAB? Was the difference between budget and actual? Where do we stand on our own spend? UAB greater than 5%? UAB question, based on our current situation, where will our UAB land? Where will it, over the next few years, are we prepared for any large variances? All right. Well, we got solvency. We got the question on what solvency is probably. Or just what is our solvency at the time? Maybe that's what it is. What are our monthly cash flow projections for the upcoming year? Okay. So you're talking about, whoever wrote this, talking about looking at kind of projections on a monthly basis?
Cash on hand. Like, we know we have these hot spots of March and October, and that's what's causing the need for the interfund or the out-of-fund loans. And so how is our budget doing so that, are we having those hot spots? Do we need the loans? Like, because ideally, we're going to be moving away from, you know, operating at 6 days cash on hand.
Yeah.
Because we'll have a more healthy budget. And so so can we project for the following year, do we have problems? Do we have an October, March hot spot, or are we going to be in a better situation?
Perfect. Okay. What's the percentage of our general fund with the salaries? 6 days cash on hand. What's the solvency telling us? Have we reviewed the trends? How will we move forward? All right. Percent of revenue spent. How do projections, expenditure revenues compare to our actuals? Okay. So that we're looking at that, where this is, then we're looking at that on an annual. You still kind of want to know, hey, this is what we projected.
Yeah, because we'll get our projections and ongoing, right? We get them of what the car is a projection because, as you said, we don't know the budget in July or August.
Yeah.
But we have this beautiful projection that always looks great. But then I think projections are amazing. They do a great job. But I think the role of the board is then, right, to make sure that the projection stays on track as we progress.
You know, my former boss once said, because he does a lot, I did a lot of projections with the state. He said the one thing he knew was that it was wrong.
But they look so good.
But they look amazing.
We want it to be right.
It's just dreamy. Okay, where were our budget projections off? Why do we think they were? A really solid question. What are our budget revenues and expenditures? So salary benefits at 8% under here. What direction are we trending regarding salary benefits annually? Have we met our percentage? If not, why not? If so, what is the plan to continue the trend? Okay, we don't have anything under here, so we'll kind of talk about that when we review. But this, I think, is going to be kind of cool to see. And let's see where this are all required reports completed and submitted, knowing that on an annual basis. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't belong in any of that, but that's a great thing, right? I love that. What is the state of our audit process? Yeah. So, Pat, what do you think about when on an annual basis? Let's talk about this one. If that's something that you could do, when do you think that would be a good time to do?
Depends on which reports. If you're talking about certified annual, that would be once it's completed in the middle of September, October-ish timeframe. Annual transportation report, I don't know if you're talking about that one, same time frame. Special education, same time frame as that. If you want to talk about certified enrollment, that's usually in the fall. There's a lot of different variances as far as report modules, but definitely doable each of those times.
Yeah. So, and then something else we're going to introduce you guys to later is our board president's budget calendar. And that might be something we could put in there and squeeze in there as well. Okay. What is the state of the audit process? When do you think is a good time for your board to?
That's a loaded question right now.
Yeah,
but,
right. I'm very sure, very sure.
Normal process would be they're in here doing field work anytime in the late fall, and then somewhere between January, if you're lucky, you get
So this is non-general fund, so capital and stay, but very important, especially right now, right? So property tax bill just recently passed. You guys, starting this last month, have a reduction in your stay revenue coming. That hurts. It's hurting a lot of districts. You guys are in the same boat as many districts. So having a really good understanding of that, yeah, that's going to be really helpful. What are our options moving forward? They're sort of dependent on what's in front of you that you're reviewing. Sorry, students and staff, yeah. I mean, ultimately, that's absolutely true, right? When we talk about the bigger picture, I'm here even on a more narrow focus, right? I'm here to talk about the whole stuff. You guys need the resources in order to complete your bigger goals and the bigger picture, right? So we are just still that narrower portion of that. But it's a great question. Again, it's that government level, right? Not focusing on the small stuff, but you're focusing on the bigger picture. What are the trends? I think this goes with anything, here and there, right? The most important thing to understand is what are the trends, what's been looking like. In your policy, correct me if I'm wrong, that you look at every 5 years or 3 years? That's what I'm looking at. So. Well, no, just reviewing the years of data. And I have to get your, yeah. Let's see here. So knowing the trends, so if we look at your three, okay, so you guys have 3 years.
No,
Well, whatever's in there, we'll figure it out. What are the trends, knowing that history, and
it's 5.
see what that looks like?
It's
So
5.
Okay, so having a 5-year trend as you're looking back, that goes with absolutely everything. There and here. Okay. When we fund Peter, who is Paul?
It's more that whatever choices we make.
Yeah.
It's
There's only limited resources, only so much goes around. The state likes, and the state's giving you less. So, yeah, you have to have that conversation with both Peter and Paul. So, how are we assured about the accuracy of this information? I'm small, so let me do this. Overarching. That's a great question, and that's restarting that process of rebuilding the trust, right? How are we going to be reassured? Is being able to, we're talking about an annual basis right now, okay? Answering this question, if you work with your staff and start to get at all this information, is that going to start rebuilding that trust? Right, and the accuracy. Is it the audit that comes after you've reviewed all this stuff, and then you get the audit back and you can say, hey, this matches. This is what we were told we could believe. So that's something that I can't answer that for you today, right? It's not my place.
Do districts employ basically an auditor to work over the course of the year and with the staff to address if the staff is providing information that the auditor agrees with?
I'm not familiar with any of that. Do you have any idea of that?
I mean, it would depend what they were doing, because you have to be careful of conflict of interest as an auditor. They're to audit a certain scope of business every year. As far as looking at monthlies to see if that's kind of the board. We have a fiduciary responsibility.
How the hell am I supposed to know if their bank statement reconciliations are being done accurately every month? How am I supposed to know that?
Accurately is a different kind of a question.
Well, if they were done.
Right. If they're done, I suppose if that's been a problem, that you could actually have it as part of your board report, consent agenda, or even later. Does your business manager normally speak, right now, going forward, will they?
No. But we are producing that monthly reconciliation.
Yeah, we do have a report that during the CFO, once a month, the second meeting of the month, kind of talks about all of the audit comments, how they're being addressed. We've added kind of deadlines for as far as who's in charge of taking care of those things. And then we also have one that talks about the bank reconciliations, just based on where we were, where every 25, 26, 27 is at. So we go through those every month and they're updated. I give those to our controlling assistant and they go in and update those.
Okay, so that's perfect. You have the compliance part, but your question was really if they're accurate or signing off. And it kind of goes into the internal control piece of it. So that, you might want to have another SBO reviewing the bank recs. Some districts use another district to sign off because SBOs understand bank recs. Other people within the district, for the most part, don't.
There's a clause within our internal controls that states that if someone sees something off, they're supposed to report it to the superintendent and the board president. So if someone saw that these reconciliations are being done, that kind of thing, it should have been reported to the board president and the superintendent.
It's fair to say simply that whatever process you plan on locally is the only way for the board to have some assurance is to have an independent, like an independent SBO from a different district that provides it. Because some of you don't have that expertise, which is fair, right? Or possibly the time. Or possibly the time, right? And so,
You'll find districts for internal control purposes are having superintendent sign up on the bank book. That's okay, compliance, but the superintendent doesn't have time nor knows what's in that. So that's why we say, the school business official and other things for better practice.
That's why it's so important to hire the right people for the job.
You always want the right people on the bus.
Yep.
All right, this is great. I'm going to take some pictures of this as well, but while we do that, we're going to go back to our tables. And do we?
You're up still. I will
No.
take pictures for you if you would like. One of you is
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, we're going to talk about your current board policies, and
Jan, do you want this?
we're going to talk about what we have the data for you for your 7 general fund financial indicators as well, along with the additional information. So in that packet, you will see your current board fiscal management policies and your fiscal metric, your regulation.
So it's not on there, is it?
Okay.
Oh, nope. I just see it there. Okay, so in your packet, you have your board policy and the board regulation that your board has approved. And we were talking earlier about steering, rowing, the what, the how. Your board policy and regulation is kind of the what, that's the governance piece. When we look at your board policy, which is great, you even have the updated verbiage in it. If you go down to the second paragraph where it says monthly. So monthly, the superintendent, in coordination with the treasurer, will provide the board with accurate reports showing receipts, disbursement, balances. That's kind of the legal requirement of what always has been. A beginning balance, receipts, expenditures, ending balance. Always been required, okay? Now, this is part of what happened in the last legislative session, adding this extra verbiage that you see in the rest of the sentence that actually talks about cash flow, talks about investment portfolio, and talks about your financial performance, basically. All of that on a monthly basis. Is that going to happen right away? You know? No. So this is where you want to get to, but you know, as a board, you know that FY24 audit was just done recently, because I saw it posted on the state website. 25, still in the works. 26 will be in the works. lots of work has to be done by the management team, to get to a point where you can start supplying the monthly information. Even when you get to that point where you can actually have data and have the monthly information, you aren't going to see much in the months of July, August, to get to that point in September. And the reason is, school districts are unique. You have to keep the books open July and August, and that accrues back to June. So you really can't do any kind of a monthly, you do preliminary, but everything is going to change anyway. So just FYI on that. So you have this policy that you want to be going by, but you need to understand that it's going to take time before you can actually be going by it. It is going to be important at some point that you actually are practicing what's in this policy. You also have that the board will establish and review financial goals, and that's in the third paragraph. That was in the fiscal management policy before. The difference now, and this came about by the legislative process as well last session, you have to publish it in the minutes. So you don't have to send that anywhere, at least at this point, to Department of Ed or anything. But if you happen to win that trip to the School Budget Review Committee that you're all familiar with, I imagine they'll be asking to see that information. So also in your packet is the regulations. So your regulations, and we already mentioned this, you 5-year trend information. So this is where we're talking about, I was just talking about monthly, and now we're talking about annual on the 5-year trend information. So that'll be once the year is closed. So your ending year, basically your reports are due the middle of September. So it's probably going to be the earliest, probably the first meeting in October, maybe, that you start getting your regular financials, once things are in a good place. So I don't want you to ask Pat, well, she said that in October we should see. Probably not yet, not this October. But you can look at the trend information, and you can see that for all of your different funds, revenues and expenditures. Kind of say that tongue-in-cheek, because you're going to be looking at expenditures that may or may not have been coded correctly, since a lot of corrections are currently being made. Also involved in the metrics then, you have your goals. So you have your unspent authorized budget ratio, which is basically the spending authority that you have at the end of a fiscal year. Legally, this one is the total spending authority. This is the one that if you go negative, you actually violate the law. So you have a 5 to 15% or 5 to 10% as your target for unspent. And then, as you know, there are restricted fund balances. That's your categorical fund balances. So your second goal is unspent less your restricted or categoricals. And then what is that percentage? That, unfortunately, is what won you to a trip to the SBRC. What you want to have in here, if you look at your language, it says that your ratio net of restricted fund balances within the 0 to 5% target range. I think that's what you want your actual categoricals to be. So now you need to establish a goal for the unrestricted net of that. I think that 0 to 5% is just saying we want our restricted or categoricals to be a very small percentage. But your actual goal of unspent, that's restricted categoricals, should really be close to your percentages that are your unspent, your 5 to 10%. So for the most part, you'd be spending your restricted categorical for what they're intended for.
Can you write that in an email to us when we get done?
I sure can.
Thank you, I appreciate it. So then we can go back and
Yeah.
make those changes.
So, and what's neat about this is once you get everything going, this is going to help drive decisions at the board table. Even though these are indicators at the end of the year, when you have, say, a large adoption coming your way at the board table, and you know that you want your unspent to be in this range, you can ask the question, what's this doing to us? Have we built that into the budget that we're going to be, okay at the end of the year, and spending authority is going to be okay? Okay, any questions on that policy or reg?
Not quite sure if this is in law or not.
Okay.
During the course of the year, districts, including this one, see unanticipated changes in enrollment and special education students and the cost for their education. Do you have any recommendations for how students, for how districts should try to manage those two variables over the course of the year?
So your special ed costs that you think are changing during the year because of the students that come to you?
Because of students that qualify for special education that we didn't know about when we were drawing up the budget.
Yeah, so I just draw from my own experience. I kind of looked at what we had before, but then we would look at the numbers that were actually in the certified in the fall, which is after certified enrollment, when you're doing your special ed count, to see if the student numbers within level 1, 2, and 3 changed substantially. If they didn't, you could still pretty much use your budget, just increasing them somewhat. But if you have a student that you know is being outsourced privately, those costs are escalated.
Or if you have 50 students that qualify for special ed.
Right.
that you
Iowa
didn't
City,
anticipate.
after all.
Yeah, that's true, that's true, yeah. Yeah. So, and I was at Johnston, which we had child serve, so we were one of those magnets too for special education. And your costs can escalate quickly. Now, the one thing I will say, even though you can adjust your budget somewhat during the year to try to meet that, is it going to change anything at the end of the year? Probably not, except that you're going to know closer to where you'll be. And you're in a special education deficit. You have to meet your special education requirements. That means your deficit's going up, which it's not a bad thing, because the good thing is we're kept whole, because you are required to have those services. You do get the spending authority. And that's the most important indicator that we have, is the spending authority. You don't get the cash for it, so you have to later get it either through your own balances or through the cash reserve levy. But you are kept whole as far as the special education deficit. Yeah.
I would say too, it's, we don't have a crystal ball, but the better that we can be doing our projections fairly conservatively, looking at what's happened in the past with the special education deficit, trying to predict what's happening forward. Just like I think it's conservative budgeting, and there's so many variables. I think that's the other thing as you do 3 to 5 year budget projections. Your 3-year projections out are going to be probably closer, but how can you be doing things on those variables where we have that interplay, whether it's predicting SSA, predicting certified enrollment, try to do it conservatively. So if we get in these years that are more surprising, we budgeted conservatively enough, we can make our way through those times.
Right. And it is a budget. It's wrong, like you mentioned before, your budget's never going to be exact. But going back to special ed, anything that's high cost to you, also get some high costs that you get to file at the end of the year, that you get some money back, but you don't know exactly what the money is that you're going to get back from the state on it either, so there's that variable.
And I don't think Iowa City School Board has probably ever had a problem with it, but anytime we have the ability to go to SBRC to ask for the authority, we best be doing it.
And you have that in your board policy. So that board policy that we just looked at, it highlights those instances where you are directing management to go to the SBRC, and then you have that last bullet, any lawful purpose as well.
Saw it in the teens when you had the 100 student growth. That's when I was digging through things. So I saw one.
Any other questions on the policy or the regulation? And just understand, it's really critical that you understand you want to follow your board policy and have that practice because it's there, but you also know that you're unique in your situation right now and it's going to take some time.
Pat, do you want to, I think it's our opportunity to really kind of impress back to the board, and Jan's doing a great job of saying, hey, in these new policies, you've got this and the new legislative requirement, but it is day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute work in the business office right now to be able to do just what we're able to get done. These reports are going to take a while to get to the board.
It is, for example, on a very high level. So the CFO report for our board meeting Tuesday evening, I am going into our current financial data. So she mentioned the accrual basis. So we're open until the end of August. in most situations, those accruals or the expenditures and the revenue are actually shown here. Ours aren't currently like that. So what I'm doing is I'm spending hours going into our general ledger, pulling that data out to extract and put it back there so I can give you financial reports for Tuesday evenings. So just know, as she said, things are like minute by minute, day by day, finding something and just going, okay, this is something else we need to address. So then it kind of takes off track. So just know there is like she said, there's a lot of play going on back there right now. There's a lot of things that are, coming to surface in a lot of hours, but we're doing everything we possibly can. I just want everybody to know that.
Okay, let's take a look at your indicators now. You have that in front of you. So the first page is your certified enrollment, okay? So if we look at the top of that, you can see from FY20 through FY25, your enrollment is fairly stable through all of those years. And that is something unusual, especially for a large district, to see that constant enrollment. Did you get one?
Oh, I got one.
Anyone else missing? Okay. So, and this one is really important because it's the major driver in your funding formula, certified enrollment is. So this is really good. This is one of those assumptions that the board needs to be in agreement with management when you're doing projections, where you think enrollment is going to be. Do you use a demographer?
We are putting a contract.
Trying to get one right now.
I saw that you have an RFP going out, right?
All right.
Yep.
But also we do, every 2 years, or, every 2 years we engage. So last year, no, but the year before we had it.
Okay, so that's really helpful, especially for larger districts. Okay, and then down below, you can see your certified and your served enrollment. The certified's in orange, the served is in blue. And again, really constant as far as both types of enrollment. And you've actually seen some changes, but not very significant, just very constant, stable enrollment that you can count on. So your served enrollment, well, it's not the same as certified. It comes in through your open enrollment in as miscellaneous income. Still really important to your budget and to your line item. Okay. The second one that we're going to look at is UAB. This is the one that you have 5 to 10% as your goal. And you can see in fiscal 20, 1.2%, and we saw it go all the way negative in FY23, and then we saw it go back up the last 2 years. You're currently at 2.3%. Now, we don't have it in here, but if we were looking at your categoricals for FY25, that would make up 2.2%. So your spending authority would only, total spending authority, net spending authority, would be at 0.1%. So you're not negative, but you're close. Then if we look at percent of annual authority spent, that kind of tells a story. So what this is the amount of spending authority that you're receiving in any given year. So are you using all of that spending authority? Are you using less and building up that ratio? Or are you spending more and taking some of the prior balance if you had prior balance? So when we saw that dip in FY23 as you went down, you can see that percent of annual authority spent, 101.3, you were spending more than the spending authority that you received that year. Same story when you see it going up in the last 2 years, you're spending less, those last two columns, less than 100%. So that's letting your UAB grow. Once you get to your goal that you've established and you want to maintain, then you want your percent to be real close to 100. It's not going to be exact, it's not exact science, but then you want your spending authority to be spent on the students while they're here, because that's what it's there for. Right? So that's the second one. If we go to the next page, oh, I'm sorry, you do have the categoricals. I misspoke. Okay, I just had it in mind. So right here you can see in FY25, if you go about halfway down and you see the blue bar, 4.7 million are the dollars associated with your categoricals. If you go down to the bottom portion that breaks down your spending authority, you see 2.3% is your total spending authority FY25, and then your categorical, the last line, makes up 2.2%. And then that middle percent, 0.1%, is that total UAB minus your restricted fund balances. So that's your net 0.1%. Okay? So once you get things where you want them to be, you have dollars available that would help in flexibility, but until that time, you don't have a whole lot of flexibility. Because if you use any of these categoricals, you lose total spending authority. You don't receive any spending authority. You already received that in the past.
So can I ask a clarifying question? I actually did not understand what you were talking about before, and I wrote a note that said, have Pat or Kurt explain this to me.
Okay.
But I do, but I think I'm starting to understand with the restricted categorical. So some of our UAB is because we didn't spend in our categorical accounts. But
Right.
that's not really helpful because those are categorical funds, like maybe it's nutrition or whatever. So it's unspent balance, but it's not general fund unspent balance. It's restricted fund unspent
Within the
balance.
general fund.
Within the general, but can only be spent on certain things, whatever the category is.
Preschool.
Preschool, yes, okay, perfect. So it's a preschool fund. And then what's at 0.1% is our general fund unspent balance. You can spend this on anything.
Right, it's your spending authority, not your general fund balance, but your spending
Yes.
authority and general fund that can be used for any
anything,
general fund purpose.
because it's not
Right.
categorical. It's unrestricted, unspent balance money.
Absolutely.
Is that what is supposed to be at 5 to 10%?
5 to 10% is your total spending authority. That's
Well,
the-
for our unspent balance.
The 2.3 is what's supposed to be 5 to 10%.
Okay, so we can include the categorical funds.
Yes.
In the,
Total,
to get
the
to the
legal
5 to 10%.
requirement does include the restricted fund balances.
Okay.
But she's saying the second one, the categorical percent ought to be the same 5 to 10.
Pretty close,
Yeah.
5 to 10, right.
So one that's 2.2%.
Or less.
Right, we want it really
Right.
small.
It needs to be smaller than the UAB. So
But the one that says 0.1%, we don't need to get to 5 to 10%.
That's all part of it.
And right, we have this pie,
Yeah.
and a small part of the pie is categorical, and a larger part is non-categorical. But what needs to be at 5 to 10 is the entire pie.
Right.
We don't have to worry about either portions of those pies on their own being at 5 to 10%.
Well, you kind of have to worry about categoricals, because that's the whole reason that won you the trip to the SBRC.
Will you explain that further to us?
Sure. So, you did not violate the law, but because they see it as a red flag that you're basically balancing your spending authority on your restricted fund balances, they require you to come and then say, what's your plan to get out of this? Because if it wasn't for your restricted categoricals, you'd be negative. So,
Or 0.1, right?
Yeah.
We'd be at 0.1.
Like 26 were
There's also some nuance to it, because they changed it a year or two ago, that it's before some of your MSA requests also.
yeah, because your special education deficit,
Yeah.
that later comes into play, and so you had to, talk about that,
There's a
right?
little bit more
There's a
nuance
lag,
to
right.
that piece as well, that we have to be also positive before some of our modified supplemental amount approvals go through.
As far as appearing before the SBRC.
Yeah,
But when it's all said and done, it will be part of that last fiscal year. But they don't approve it till December, so that's, yeah, it's
Can
a
we-
timing.
Another hypothetical, so if let's shoot for the moon and say we're gonna get our UAB to 10%. We'd really want that restricted portion to be down closer to 1 to 2-ish% of that 10, right? You're saying unrestricted needs to be the healthier
Of that.
amount. There is no technical healthy indicator target, is there? I mean, what flagged SBRC? Obviously, 2.2 of the 2.3 that we had remaining were in restricted, but what was the flag? What number did we hit to get when the trade
became negative?
Yeah, it was technically, even though where he brought up the nuance is that they calculated it before your sped MSA,
Okay.
which puts you negative.
Right.
Technically, you were positive, even with the restricted, right, by about 286,000 or something like
Right.
that. However, because it was done before, they still view it as that canary.
It's a bit
in the coal mine.
unfair.
So
Yeah.
when you told us we're currently negative, but if we get our modified supplemental state aid approved by the SBRC, that will move us positive. That's what you just said. Okay, because I remember that from the meeting and saying, and as long as they approve it, then we'll be okay.
That's because we're negative without the special education deficit.
And some other, there's a couple other MSAs that are in there.
Yeah, your EL and things like that.
Sorry, just to use ELL.
Yes, yeah, ELL, any students not on prior year head count, which we don't typically file for that one.
Yeah, it'll be on so many years, 5 years.
Yeah.
What would be nice, special ed is, deficit is the large one, right? It would be nice if you file that the same time as the CAR, if you could just submit that report along with, and they'd say, okay, we're not gonna make you appear yet, we'll wait till past December, because really, you're gonna be fine, but they don't do that.
So, but just to kind of reiterate on the categorical stuff, there is no right percentage, right? Categoricals are there to be spent. The legislature gave you this money for that specific purpose. They honestly want to see it spent down to zero, okay? But they also know that at times you can't do that. So they've also given you the opportunity of flexibility. You put money into your flexibility account. You can also transfer certain categoricals into your TSS now. So they've given you the additional ability to spend it down. It doesn't mean that there's not opportunities at times you might want to save some of that categorical. Like if you know you're not spending it, but you got some one-time spending coming up. We have districts all the time that save up, right? So they know they don't. Maybe they want to get their talented and gifted teacher from half-time to full-time. So they're going to save up a few years to be able to start affording that. Maybe they have a large curriculum purchase coming up. Then they can put that in their flexibility and use it as a one-time purchase. So there's opportunities to use categoricals, almost like a savings account in a way, for lack of a better term.
Just be careful with it.
Yeah, it's not the best term to use, but ideally, you want your categorical balance to be as close to zero as you can at the end of each year.
Because when you're doing a flexibility account, you can actually take from all 4 sources. It doesn't have to be one source, one restricted fund.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing you say is propping up our UAB with high levels of categoricals is not a best practice.
No, because you can't use, you can't use that one. What are you going to use that 0.1%? You can't use it for salary increases.
So we need, when we're looking at the health of our UAB, we really need to be razor focused on, is it the regular program portion that we are increasing the size of?
You need the flexibility to be able to spend those dollars.
Okay.
I have a question for the board. Are you leveraging the flex fund?
There.
Yeah, they have $1 million setting in a flexibility account that they really can't touch right now.
Gotcha.
Yeah, for the same reason, because if they do, they lose their total spending authority.
Yeah, gotcha.
The legal
Okay. Very
spending
good.
authority.
Thank you for that update.
Right.
That's a helpful.
Well, you'd have to
nuance.
look at this sheet and see
Yeah,
it,
appreciate
so.
that.
Do you have some magical insight of how we can, or other districts can explain all of this to the public in a way that makes immediate sense?
Well, you have good people in place that are going to be able to help share that story with your community.
So you know how to do that, Pat?
She does.
Great, okay.
Working on that, and that is the plan going forward, so the public sees this information in an understandable format, right? Because sometimes when we talk about these things, it kind of gets down into the weeds.
No kidding.
Put it into a usable format, people understand, they can see where we've been, where we're at, and where we want to go. They can see that there is progress being made, and I don't get a lot of comments when they talk. They don't see these things, so I think once we're in a place we can do that and get that information out there, I think that's going to be another point that's going to build some trust back with the community of we are working on these things and we're talking about it and it's out there. We put on the website, we talked about putting those things out there. I think the more we put out there that we can.
Yeah. And it's tough. Spending authority is a very difficult concept to understand.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Let alone when you're looking at categoricals and the outside community looks and says, oh, this money is sitting here, and you, what? What? This is a problem?
Good news, all that money is not sitting in
I think it is a true challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, ISB for, new board members or even veteran board members has their, is it 101, 201, and 301? And it's like, how do you distill all that information down to even share it with our public? Like, it is a tall order, but not that we shouldn't challenge ourselves to do it.
No, you shouldn't. And, we come out and do that kind of stuff too. I've been out with superintendents to their Lions clubs, just to have those conversations, just to start that process. I worked with a superintendent in northern Iowa where we put together a presentation. I helped her deliver it to her Lions Club on the first time. And then she took the same presentation just to be able to start that learning process for her own community, right? And because again, it's difficult. You have, people who might have worked in finance for 30 years inside of a bank, and they still can't wrap their heads around spending authority. So
And we just
it's tough.
appointed 7 of them to
Yeah.
financial oversight.
So,
Well, we have legislators that struggle to understand all the financial concepts too. Okay.
you're not alone, but if there's something that we can do to help, just pick up the phone and call me.
Do solvency?
Yeah, solvency. So again, solvency, that's that cash, right? So you have spending authority, that's your permission. Cash is your ability. The two don't always match up. Okay, so right now, because of your cash reserve levies, and then levying, $2 to $3 on your tax bill, you guys have increased your solvency. So you're at 6% ending in 25. You would like to be at 10 to 15%, but a minimum of 5%. And you can kind of see in there on that page that I put that in there, right? That technically you are at least at your minimum now. Now you still need to work up towards. So things that can combat against this, though, again, you can only raise so much at any certain given time. And you have to cover those modified supplemental amounts. You have to cover the money that you spent on special education. That is a big one for you guys, right? And so it's chipping away at it. This isn't something that happens instantly in 1 year. Your taxpayers would not like it if it did. So it's something that you work on gradually, is to continue to get that higher cash on hand and get up to your goal. Again, once you're there, then it's just trying to work as best as you can at spending 100% of it. And last year, that's kind of what you guys did. Even though you haven't gotten to your total target, at least at the minimum, you guys spent about 100% of the revenue. So you guys you had a shortfall, I believe, of about $1 million between expenditures and revenues, which, again, is about 50 basis points, so 0.5%. But you kind of you got closer to there. And you were able to bring things up between 23 and 24 by spending less, right? So it's working at it and it's getting there. The next page is something that I try to work on with people about that concept, because there's so many different ways you can explain it. And so this is, I don't know if you guys have ever seen these. They're called TENS grid structures. I think they're like the coolest things in the world, because you see that? You can actually sit on that. Okay? And even though it looks like it's wires, looks like it should just fall, there's that tension there. And spending authority and solvency, it's like two halves of that fiscal reality, right? One's your legal permission, one's your financial ability, okay? There's the tension and there's the interplay between the two concepts. A well-balanced district is going to balance their UAB and their solvency, because what you don't want also is you don't want spending authority that you can't spend if you don't have the cash. You don't want a high UAB and a low solvency, right? But you also, in turn, you don't want cash that you can't spend. You want the spending authority to back up the cash that you have. So right now, you are a district that has more cash than spending authority. When you look at your end of the year, right? It might not feel like that with the loans going and international loans and some of these hotspots that you guys mentioned, right? But the reality is, you guys do have more cash than spending authority, and it's something you have to be careful.
And that's because our UAB is too low.
Your UAB is lower than your solvency, yeah, even when you take a look at it from a cash side, and you take a look at the numbers.
So for the people that do tune in to listen to this, which there will be people, I'm sure, but that 6%, because it moves around throughout the year, the solvency ratio, that's where we're running into problems.
The solvency ratio is an annual.
Okay.
So it's really, you can only calculate it really at the end of the year. So it's.
So how do we not have the cash throughout.
Well,
the
what
period.
we're looking at is that end of the year.
The end of the year, okay.
Yeah, so it's a point in time. So it's not really possible to calculate your solvency ratio throughout the year. So that's why we bring that, when we talk about that, we're still talking about that annual, what you can ask
Yeah.
for and what you should be reviewing annually. That's one of the ones that you want.
That's probably why the target is 10%.
I was gonna say, that's why
So
6% is too low.
Yeah, 6% is too low.
Yeah, right.
Versus 10%.
This-
10% would be if it's changing throughout the year, right? The solvency.
It's not really a calculation that can be done throughout the year. It's ending balances. Yeah. So it's taking a look at saying, okay, this is your assigned and unassigned balances, and it's also taking a look at your revenue, and it's creating a ratio between those, okay? So you don't know what your revenue, you don't know what your ending balance is in January, and you don't know what your total revenue is. You can project it, but you're projecting it on an annual basis, not on a monthly basis.
But I guess what I'm saying is if our solvency ratio was higher, would we have those valleys where we don't have the cash flow?
If you have more cash on hand, because I think you mentioned having 60 days, then you would not have.
6 days. 6 days.
60 was
We want 60 days.
Goal is
Yeah,
60 days, yeah.
60, yeah. No.
So in your board policy, once you get it really, where you really want it, you do have that little sentence that says that you would like your solvency to equal your spending authority.
Mhm.
So that would be a goal to have, in the future, and then you wouldn't have that problem.
And I apologize if I'm saying something that you guys have seen in the past or typical, but we often hear Pat or others referring to that car being due September 15th. And then, in the last district I was in, we would have come back with a report in mid to end of October to show just this, where did we end with our solvency ratio and our UAB. So I don't know if that's been done in Iowa City, but that's that normal time of year where the books are now closed, the car has been submitted. Is that all fair?
That's correct.
Yeah, and some of that's still projections because you don't quite know what's the SBRC. If you have some of them that are mays and not shalls, you do have to keep that in mind. So that your final UAB is really calculated. It's really not available till March, technically, once the SBRC is done meeting on all 3 of their meetings.
But you are right, you want to share it and just say it's preliminary information, because depending on where you're going, you want to be able to know that you need to make budget adjustments. You need to know that information as soon as possible. So you want that preliminary information in the fall.
Well, this table right here, when we do the 101, 201, 301 in November, you have that for all the districts,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
At the ISB convention.
We do.
So,
That's correct.
yeah.
Yeah, and so we use that matrix, but I also would point out that this matrix is based on ISB's recommendations, not your own districts. You can redo this matrix to make it look, if this is something that works for you and it makes sense for you and your community, you can redo this, right? So that best is at that 5 to 50%, right? And you can change this around. This is just where we look at it from a statewide perspective and a statewide level, and we create a recommendation for 324 school districts. We can't match to everybody and everybody's needs. So when we look at this matrix, yeah, we would put you, based on ours, at that sort of level of concern. And what that just means is that you have to look at that, you're still within the legal limits, which you technically are. But after reducing those categorical balances, are you negative? At this point in time, you're not, by 0.1. So, but now you need to know if that UAB is declining, you really need to know why. Moving forward, these are the questions you really want to start asking and looking at that. Why is it? And being able to start doing those course corrections. Tammy mentioned steering a ship. It's not a jet ski, right? It's mid-year course corrections are extremely difficult, and they're not going to always produce the results that you want right away. So it takes time to rebuild and to make those corrections. So it's good to get this preliminary information in the fall, in the late fall, and that's something I think your admin team can do for you. And that way it helps refine your budget for next year and start that conversation.
We have done a matrix in the past that does have net of the categoricals in it.
Oh, we can do that,
And that
yeah.
probably be really important for this district, because that's what, that's the condition that you're worried about.
Yeah.
And if we were to do that, I'm guessing you'd be in the high concern.
Yep.
So in working on where dollars come from and where they go, in a satisfactory manner, is there some way we can incorporate how those changes affect our instructional programming?
That's hard for us finance people. But every decision you make is instructional based. So your finance decisions are all about education, because that's what we're here to support. That's what you're doing at the board table, right?
Yeah, 70%, by function, 70% of the money you spend goes to instruction.
Instruction, right. Yeah. And if we change that ratio, that, as I understand it, has an effect upon our instructional ability or overall, one way or either way, one way or the other.
One of the easiest ways to quantify that is class size and program cuts. So what has happened to your class sizes? Because, in the many lines of thought down class size, by the way, like, does it really move student achievement or not? Depends on who you talk to. If you talk to my wife, who's a kindergarten teacher, she likes it a whole lot better when she has 22 students versus 26, I can tell you that. We have those conversations in the McGee household. But the research would say, you have to get to a certain number depending on the grade level before it's impacted. But that number is a real number. What's your average class size? And that varies by level, obviously. And then the other one is programmatic cuts. Like, have you had to make any programmatic cuts? Because that speaks directly to teaching and learning. So if you had to cut, for example, a foreign language from your curriculum, right? If you had 4 and now you're down to 3, that's a perfect example of the impact, right? Because the percentages can change a little bit just based on your budget, right? Like, you might think, oh, we're in a really good budget spot, but maybe it's because your budget's a little bit smaller than it was before. So you have to tell that story in a different way, because the total numbers don't always speak to that. Because you might stay at 70%, like Mike was talking about, but if your budget's gone down $1 million, well, do the math on that. Like, your instructional program took that 70%, $700,000 hit of that $1 million budget cut. And so how do you tell that story to your community about, the overall school funding picture? Giving those examples are 2 good examples of how to communicate that to your community: class size and programmatic cuts, instructional programmatic cuts.
I think there's an easy place to have seen that was the consent agenda from the last July meeting, where it showed all those cuts. Like, all those instructional leaders that were losing their stipends, and instructional coaches, and then people being moved from here into the buildings. And I think that's on the next agenda to discuss or look at those movements.
It is.
So that the cuts, yeah.
I guess my interest is more in having a convincing, fact-based, reality-based story about why we want to eliminate a foreign language offering. That is not a simple task.
One of the things that I've read a lot about but never put into practice is the concept of academic return on investment. So looking at those programs, what the resources are versus what's the net benefit of it in comparison. I think that's some of the discussion we're going to have for the year of looking at things through that lens of academic return on investment. And that's really hard to capture sometimes. We know we got to do some of the basics, so then, what is the academic return on investment on a French program, right? Like, it's not an easy hill to capture, but that's kind of the framework that the discussion almost has to be.
I was thinking the same thing. There's so many layers to it too. It's like, philosophically, where are you? I mean, we heard a comment the other day from one of our staff members to say, instead of doing your cuts by attrition, shouldn't you just be looking basically more globally or holistically about the different employee groups? Well, that's one way to approach it for sure. So you've got attrition, you've got looking at the employee groups, you've got buildings, you've got programs, you've got staffing. But in all three of the latter, it really comes back to staffing. If you're pulling a program away, that equates to staffing. There might be some supplies and curriculum in there,
Yeah.
but it does come back to staffing.
And remember, you're viewing this at that governance level, right? And you're asking those kind of questions at it, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to get the individual, right? Stop you. My daughter's loves taking Arabic. She loves the language. They cut Arabic at our school district, okay? But they have their reasons. But on an individual level, right, it does hurt, and you do have to acknowledge that. But you can't view it all the way down at that level. You have to think of that at these different levels that you're talking about, what works best. My daughter definitely let them know. She was very vocal about it. She took meetings with the admin staff and with the community college. So she was very, very thorough in trying to get her back. Even started one of those signing things online.
One of the things that more and more communities are going through down this pathway is simply this. The reality of public school districts in the state of Iowa is we know we've been underfunded for a lot of years as it relates to the Consumer Price Index versus SSA. So how are you approaching the conversations of cuts? And so what I would say is that should think about how you involve, and we'll go back to our lighthouse principles. How are you listening to your community? Because at times individually as board members, as administrators, as parents, et cetera, we may disagree with a particular decision. But if you have an intentional budgeting process, specifically when you're going to make cuts, that you can go back and say, here's the data, right? Like I know you don't like that we cut Arabic in Mike's example, but here was the feedback from staff, from the community, from the board, administration, et cetera. And so this informed our decision to make this particular cut at this time with our financial reality. And so we're seeing, again, hard conversations in districts, but I think the districts that are being intentional in that way experience less pushback overall from their communities when they involve the community in those conversations.
I think too, I mean, the idea of keeping the overarching goals in mind and having those be the point from which the investigation into like what the options are and then how you gather information and then how you tell the story, everything needs to come from that. This is a side topic, but I just was able to go back and watch the most recent ISFIS webinar about, including other topics, the funding for private education. And the thing that blew my mind was when you look at the number of people who would have enrolled anyway in private education and then put on top of that the people who are now enrolled, the cost from what the state is paying for that small addition on top is, I think it's $36,000 per student. And so then you have to ask, well, what's the goal you're achieving here? Is the goal to just get to help people who wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity? That's probably not what's being accomplished. And so that was a really powerful example to me of the importance of, you can tell a different story when you have a different goal in mind. And so I think being able to get clear on what our goals are, and then how to go about telling that ROI story and all the impact story is so hard but so critical.
I think that goes back to earlier, the culture of yes. We can't keep saying yes, because if we keep saying yes, we won't have a school district that we're in control of, because the state will take it over, because we're overspending. So it's, but also being cognizant when we have these messages, like that's the path that we will go down if we don't learn to say no. But at the same point in time, acknowledging that, if you are taking from one area over here to afford that area, you no longer have, it just is part and parcel anymore. I have Yeah, so it's.
The pie's not getting bigger,
Yeah.
it's getting smaller.
Can I just voice, like, I really think we have to be careful about making statements in public community sessions that suggest the state might come in and take us over. I think that, I mean, I am speaking now. We have our data in front of us for the for fiscal year 25, and the numbers are concerned. We have to work on the numbers, but you know, our solvency ratio, 5% is the minimum. We're at 6%. We are concerning on the chart, but we're not at a level of high concern. And when we talk about building trust in the community and like, we cannot be alarmist and say the state is going to take us over, when especially you look at some of the other districts, the fiscal year minimums that you've put in here, that I assume are other real districts in the state, right?
Correct, yes.
That are way, way worse off than where we are, and the state is not taking them over. So it's really just important to be truthful to the public about the situation and not extremists, and say, we have to work on this, we have to do better, but I don't think we should scare them that we are realistically looking at a situation that the state is going to come in and take us over. I just don't think that's realistic at this point in time. And I don't think it's productive for the community to hear that message from any one of us on this.
Well, you guys have very good, and it's a good point. You guys have some really positives in your district, right? You have stable enrollment. You are a large district with stable enrollment. I mean, you did lose about 100 kids. 274 school districts last year lost kids. Not unheard of. But when we look at realistically, there's really one, maybe two other districts your size or around there that are increasing or at least stable. So that's really something to be proud of. And yes, you guys have gotten your solvency back up, and you've had to work at that, and you continue to work at that. You are positive on your UAB, and these are all great things. And yeah, you should celebrate that. It is important to know that you've been operating in crisis mode before, right? You still have concern, but now you can start working yourselves back towards that governance level and back towards putting the things that you want to do. You're rebuilding some teams right now. You want to be able to trust that, and then that's what you want to be able to start working on.
These numbers on this packet, do they reflect the latest audit, or is this?
This is CAR data, so your certified annual report.
We know that CAR is probably incorrect, right? Where we don't know the correctness on the CAR.
We currently do not know,
Okay.
as far as there have been adjusting entries provided by our auditors.
And I will step in and say that I sat at the SBRC meeting where we were read the RIDE Act, and I sat at the State Board of Education meeting where we were read the RIDE Act. And I don't believe I'm an alarmist after sitting at both of those meetings and listening to them speak.
The SBRC is full of political appointees that have their own agenda. The data is what is important to look at. The numbers is what is important for us to focus on.
Yeah, we know that these numbers aren't right.
I am talking. Please stop interrupting me. That is the second time you have done this. I don't care what a Reynolds appointee in Des Moines says about the Iowa City Community School District. I don't. I care about our numbers and our data, and while these are subject to change, we don't know what they look, we don't know what that change is. And this is the best data that we have at this point in time to look at. And I'm not saying that these numbers are okay or that we should stay here. But as you said, we were in crisis mode. We are in a much better place. And now it's about pulling us, focusing on our governance role and taking that bigger picture. And that is our role as a board, is a different role because we're in a different place.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, yes. And so I think that's important. And, you know, when you look at some of this other data in there, again, you are correct that some of this might be subject to change. But the reality is these numbers for your 25 are not going to change. What's going to happen is it's going to be adjusted on your 26. So when you're looking at these numbers never get adjusted, okay? So your audit's going to show slightly different, and it always shows things in a slightly different way. Again, another positive thing that you have here is that your salaries and benefits do remain fairly steady, right? So while we recommend 75 to 82%, you guys do have in your policy that you guys go 75 to 85%. It's just a decision that you guys have made as a board, and that's fine, and you guys are right at that mark. But you guys have kept that fairly steady. So you haven't had a lot of ups and downs. Many do, and you'll see a little bit of a distinction there, especially with COVID. That's pretty normal because everybody had a lot of changes with the COVID years. And then one of the other things on there as well is just your new money, right? And so what we kind of see on here is a chart, but what I failed to do, and it's my fault, I'm going to borrow your book for a second, sir, is that, let me pull that up real quick. On here, oh, you took great notes. I love it. Okay. So when we talk about, let's take a look at fiscal year 24. You had about a new money percentage of 3.32%. Okay, that means when we talk about new money, that's unrestricted money. It's not categorical, anything else, right? You can use it for any general fund purpose. Doesn't go to EL, doesn't go to special education. You negotiated, where you reported a negotiated settlement at 1%. So that means that you guys did a good job of keeping that negotiations at a good level. Your new money was higher, and that helped start to build the district back up, okay? And at that point in time, coming on 24, you're also starting to come off of COVID, so you did have those COVID dollars. So your salaries and benefits did drop down about 5%, right? These are the things that we want to kind of keep a look at. You really want to know, because when you're talking about those negotiations, right, and you're talking about new money, it's almost impossible. I mean, Jan, maybe you can finish this off.
Sure. Well, new money is your difference in district cost per pupil and your certified enrollment on an annual basis. And we used to always say, and it's theoretical now, that you wanted your new money to be equal or more than your negotiated settlement. That makes sense, right? It just doesn't work anymore because of low funding and trying to be competitive just doesn't work.
Yeah. Yep.
Is that what you wanted?
Yeah.
You said that one more time.
I can say it one more time. How many times you want it?
Sorry. My brain was off.
Okay, so your new money, right? So this is on your chart. New money percentage is certified enrollment times district cost per pupil is the biggest part of the formula and your revenues that you get from the state on an annual basis. So your new money percentage, it looks at district cost per pupil times certified enrollment for the year going into the next year and compared to last year. What is that percentage increase? Okay? And then what's your negotiated settlement for going into next year? You would, in the past, you would have wanted your negotiated settlement to be less than your new money. Just doesn't happen anymore. And that's because low funding and needing to be competitive, needing people to fill those positions. And we haven't been able to say that actually for quite a few years now. It's just gone. We don't have the years where you got 4% and 5% SSA.
And then you layer on the CPI piece.
It's true.
Yep.
So even if you don't settle, you know that you're going to end up at CPI if you go into mediation. So
Yeah. So which likely at this point in time, since we already know what what our CPI is for this month, settlement's going to be pretty close to it, and we're still above 3%. So one of the last things in the packet is just something that I put together for you as well, because when you talk about served enrollment, it's important to understand where these kids are coming from too. So I couldn't do the full map for you guys because of your online school. We'd have to have a bigger statewide one. So, but I did want you to just to have a good understanding. It's always nice to know and see where those changes are happening, right? So the front and back pages are going to give you your open enrollment in and out, and this is just last year. Okay, so it's just a quick snapshot, quick visual. If darker blue or darker color, if you're colorblind, is just means more students one way or the other. But I did also put it on a little table for you so you can actually see where some of these kids are coming from. And it's really interesting and really just kind of tells the story of your district, but it also helps you look for those trends when you're especially talking about served enrollment. One another positive you guys have is your served enrollment has gone higher than your certified enrollment, right? So you guys are bringing in more money than you're spending out on open enrollment. You're right around zero, right around equal, but it's still, your CERB enrollment is a little bit higher. This has been a positive trend for your district. Certified enrollment always is, more solid. CERB enrollment can go up and down. You can even see in that table. Highland, you started bringing more students in, and now they're coming out. So it's not as guaranteed, but it's just important to know, and you can kind of see that trend data. But this is what we talk about on those annual, these are the things that we can talk about on the annual basis. But there's stuff that on the monthly basis, right?
Wait a second, before you go there, that's
yeah.
another success for this district.
Yeah.
Because the last 3 years, you've been positive in your net open enrollment in, which means you brought $100,000 into the district. Before that, you were negative by about 300,000 more students going out than coming in. We think probably that difference is your online, so that's a good success story.
And from a competition standpoint, we hear that at the state level. We can argue that, the wisdom of that at another date. But thank you for competing, specifically with charter schools, online charter schools, because that's where we're seeing some growth in some charter schools is online. So having public school district options for online students is great, because not every district wants to do that work or is maybe capable of doing that work. And so we appreciate that there's some additional alternatives to that. So thanks, Iowa City, for stepping up. Because obviously we have some kids in other districts that are utilizing that, and they're not going to some of those charter schools. So we appreciate that.
It looks like it. Yeah, those numbers are really telling the tale. So,
That was the one good thing that came out of COVID.
yeah. So one of the things that we're going to do next, though, is just kind of pivot. We've talked annual, okay? But we're going to talk about that monthly. What can you as a board work towards expecting monthly, right? And again, this is not something that's going to happen overnight, just because of the situation the district's been in the past and what Pat and her team has been really working towards. This is something that we're going to be working towards, okay? And this is going to be on page 17 of your packet. So first off, best practices, right? And this is the code that the secretary of each district shall file monthly with the board of directors, complete statement, right? You're going to have your monthly financial reports. Some level of detail is good. You can go revenue by sources, expenditures by function, individual general fund financial report, separate student activity fund, fund balances by fund. And then you can also do comparisons, maybe prior year to date. That's a common one that comes up in monthly as well. And explanation, right? This is where you start putting that trust back in as well. And this is where your team can start putting that trust back in with your board. The board is like, hey, yeah, this is a little bit different. Here's why. And putting those explanations in. Those are things that are important. What we have, though, is we have sort of a cheat sheet that we're not going to share just yet, but that has sort of some questions. However, that's what we suggest, right? We're going to go back to this again. What I want to do is, and correct me if I do something wrong on what we're talking about here, is we'll split these up. Rather, I think thought we might have 3 groups, but we don't. So we're only going to go through, let's just do for now, group 1 and group 2. So I'm going to call you guys group 1 over here, group 2. On each of those 3, write 1 question, 2 questions, right? On timeliness, on understanding, on categorical funding, right? We've had a long conversation on categorical funding, so this should be something that we could have we could talk about. What are some questions on a monthly basis that you think you would like to know? Okay, and then, but also, why does that matter? Not just the questions, but think through exactly why does that matter. Again, just 1 or 2.
If we could take a break on that.
Oh, yeah, we can.
I have a hard time focusing after
Yes.
that outburst.
We can get one.
Is 7:14, 5 minutes enough?
Yeah.
Okay, come back at 7:19.
Because we need to, just a reminder, plan is to wrap up at
Eddie.
Stretch your legs, get your right hand going again. Just jot down a few things, and like I said, we're going to kind of just, what I want you to do is just to get the thinking about, hey, what can I ask in a month? It doesn't mean that we might, you guys might have it available. I think that's One thing that we're going to work with Pat on as well with this and looking at this is, hey, what can we do on a monthly basis, right? Solvency ratio was a great example. That's not something we can do on a monthly basis, but there is stuff that we can. And we want to be able to do that, and your team really wants to be able to do that in order to, again, start to work on that trust again, right? But also, what is it going to be at the governance level? The questions to ask so that we're not sweating that small stuff.
And Mike, remind us, this is team 1 or group 1, and this is group 2, is that right?
Group 2.
Okay.
And we only do the boxes underneath our
Yep.
groups?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes,
You
we
only have
won't do them all.
3.
With all due respect to the agenda, though, I'm wondering if we could go back to what we started this meeting with, which Jane wasn't here for, so she missed the leave behind, take forward exercise with Tammy and DT. And I'm wondering if the two of you could maybe step in, because what happened at the break was that Jane said that she needed a break from that outburst, referring to my comments, which I feel is a gratuitous, rude, and unfair commentary of what I said. And in fact, 5 of the board members believe that you were in the wrong in saying that. And so when we are talking about a leave behind, take forward, that is not conducive at all. That comment, Jane, that you made is not conducive to where we started this session and to the importance that you two talked to us about regaining trust and moving forward as a board. And so I think we need to go backwards because that's what we need help with. And it clearly isn't here right now.
So I'm not allowed to have my own feelings. I was shaken after that outburst that you had because of something that Director Lingo said, and I couldn't focus, and I asked for a break. And now you've co-opted 4 other board members to gang up on me? Is that what's happening here?
Based on the conversation from earlier, I think she's...
Just to clear up, because I guess this is, everyone will listen to this, I came late because I was late at work, and that's why I missed that's why I'm here in scrubs, and that's why I missed the first half hour. So I apologize for being late, but this is a recurring thing that whenever you don't like what someone says, rather than, and if you want to talk about all of the things that we've been talking about, how we're going to function as a functional board, we've talked about seek first to understand, communicate productively. If you don't like what Mitch said, rather than attack him verbally, I would prefer to see you to engage in a civil conversation. But that's not what I saw.
That's not what I felt.
Right.
That's not what I felt.
Yeah.
And I was shaken too.
Yeah, and I'm glad that IASB is here to witness it, because I've had several phone conversations with IASB about these outbursts that have happened in my 5 years on the board, in regular and in closed session. And so now, they've gotten to experience, what I've explained to them over the phone. And what I've been experiencing as a board member. I'll just say that, I've tried my hardest to do right by this community in my role on the board, and I'm proud of the work that I've done to bring about transparency and to advocate for our educators and for our parents. But everyone has their limit, and I have officially reached mine. So I will be leaving, and you'll have my letter of resignation.
That's because you don't want to hear what they have to tell you.
If they want to tell me, then they can call me.
I would suggest you sit down, because I think
That's
DT,
fine. If they want to tell me,
DT stepped up, he wants to
But-
say
but-
I think he
But
wants
I-
to talk
but
to
I'm
all
not-
of
but
us.
I'm just
They want to
telling
address
you,
all of us.
I am just telling
I
you,
agree.
Director Williams, that I have reached my limit with your behavior on this board, and I'm not going to tolerate it anymore.
So today I was at an event, and I'm not going to speak to any particular one person. This is not a comment to any one person in this room. And so it was the Iowa State Association of Counties had their annual conference today. And so I was up there with the executive director for the Iowa League of Cities and the executive director for ISAC, so the Iowa State Association of Counties. And so one of the things, the focus of our session was, now, you may laugh at this a little bit, how do we make local government cool again? Like that was that was our session, right? And so like, I don't know if it was ever cool before, but I think the point was, why is it so hard, right? Why is local governance so hard? And I think there are a lot of forces, and this is what I said, I think there are a lot of things that are out in the public sphere, social media, other things, that just make it hard to be a leader on a school board, on county board of supervisors, a local city council. And the thing that I emphasized was, one of the things I emphasized was that we just have to model good governance and we have to model good citizenship. And so I gave some personal anecdotes down that pathway. Like there's been an exchange tonight, and there are some emotions tied to that, and that is deeper than what I've witnessed here tonight, apparently, right? And so what I would say is, from my perspective, just to go back to today, is how do we as leaders, and this is not just Iowa City, right? There's a lot of other city councils, boards of supervisors, school districts. How do we model that good governance leadership, and how do we model good citizenship? And so that would be, that was my charge today. And so if I was, I'll say that tonight in this room, and I would say it in other rooms as well, that's our challenge. And we don't have to be perfect, right? We aren't perfect. And so when we have issues, like Iowa City overall as a district has had issues, right? And you're recovering from those. You're doing intentional work like tonight. And there are going to be some rough moments along the way, whether it's at the board table or it's administration, with the board, community towards the board, administration, et cetera, et cetera. And so how do we model that? Good governance and good citizenship. And so that's what I would say. And so I hope you stay tonight.
But what I would say is that this behavior only exists because it has been enabled and swept under the rug. And so my calling, and so to attack me for calling it out, I think that is wrong. I want that behavior to stop. And everything that I have done, complaining to board leadership about it, reaching out to IASB about it, has not put it to an end. And I don't know what else to do.
So you have to make your own decisions tonight as a board, but we have some more material to cover. But that's really, it's timely for me to I think say that, is that we have those personal decisions to make, we have those collective decisions to make to do those two things. And one of the realities I think we face in this state and in this country, honestly, is we have individual examples that are used against the whole. From my perspective, we have situations where it's at times a bit of a double standard, where if something occurs within a that's not a public school setting, well, that was an individual, right? That was out of line, and we got to point the baby towards them. When we have something that happens, it seems to me, when we have something that happens within a public school environment right now, we have one bad example, and then that applies to the whole. Do you feel that at all at times? So if you had any laws that have come down or mandates that have come down where somebody in a different district has done something, and now we got to write a law that all districts have to follow this. And so that was probably the background of what my comment was about today. I think we have to model that City councils are experiencing that. Counties are experiencing that. And so I think the school board's the same way. Unfortunately, we have some of that pressure on us right now to be on our, I'll say, best behavior. And that's not a comment against Iowa City at all. That is multiple districts, sometimes within their control, sometimes outside their control. But I think it's incumbent upon us to just model that good governance and good citizenship, what we expect out of others. And so that was my comment today. So I'm happy to share that with you. This is like the learning tonight is modeling good governance. It's modeling good citizenship. And so I hope we just can get back to that and continue on with some of the great learning from Mike and from Jay and from Tim.
I am going to take the floor for a few seconds because some things were said about me that I get to respond to. I think it's fair. Mitch, I don't have a problem with you voicing your opinion. You're entitled to it. And I didn't interrupt you while you were going. What I have a problem with is when I'm speaking, interrupting me. Because I get to talk also without being interrupted. I have voiced this issue with you before. I've asked you on many other meetings not to interrupt me. And he continues. So that's what the only thing I was upset with between our exchange was you not letting me finish my thought. That's what I have to say to you. The reason, Jane, that you believe this behavior is being enabled, but it's not, because it's not inappropriate. You and Mitch laugh about me on your private text messages that you never think are going to get disclosed. You make fun of me in private, and the whole board knows that. You demand to know who I'm meeting with when I go to community meetings. And I write on my director liaison report, meeting with community members. You'd call the superintendent to start an investigation about who I'm talking to. And you don't do that to any other single members on this board. But we all know you're doing this. You are personally attacking me again and again. And then you sit on a soapbox here and say that I had an outburst, that I act inappropriately because it feeds your narrative that I'm the problem, when you have the problem with me. And I don't understand what it is, but the other 5 people in this room didn't think there was anything inappropriate about what I said, because there wasn't. But you are so into your head about me that you create mountains out of molehills and you personally attack me. And it's bordering on harassing at this point in time. So perhaps you should take a step back and analyze your behavior, because it is not what the majority of people in this room see. The reality that they view is different than your perception. And as Taylor Swift says, hey, I'm the problem, it's me. Maybe you should reflect on those lyrics just a little bit.
I personally would like to get back to the learning piece. One of the reasons why we have to cover the financial.
There's some things that I need to respond to, though. I guess I would like for you to point out the specific text messages where I made fun of you, because I don't believe that there are any. No, I don't know. I don't think that was me that was commenting, Lisa.
You and Mitch were exchanging screenshots of Facebook posts where people were making personal attacks on me, biting my, yes, we all saw those text messages between the two of you. That's a thing that.
But no, that's not accurate. That's not accurate.
It is, they're in the FOIA request that was disclosed.
That you requested?
I didn't request that request. And I will swear on a Bible in a court of law that I did not make that FOIA request. Whoever did was really smart, because it was really well worded. That FOIA request didn't come from me.
No, but you're
at all.
How many students?
What you're saying is not accurate. That didn't happen. It did. If you can show me after the meeting what you think you saw, but that didn't happen. Okay?
It's in the request, Jane. It's there. We all have access to it in the drive. We've all seen it.
Again, I think
You don't
you're
get to say stuff and claim that it's reality.
Lisa, you are
Don't interrupt.
you're interrupting me. You're misattributing something that someone else said to me. Yeah, you are.
That's not what, no, you two exchange screenshots of Facebook posts where people are making personal attacks on me.
No, we didn't exchange. We didn't exchange. No, I did not respond.
What I would like to do, I mean, I know you all have this situation, but it's derailing, at least for me, the piece that
Agreed.
we invited them in for. We have literally 25 minutes. And I would like to go in October to say, yes, we received that financial training from these guys when we have to appear in front of the SBRC.
Friends, how many students do you have in the Iowa City Community School District?
14,000 plus.
14,000 students are counting on you. 14,000 students that don't care. It's okay if you don't like each other. I'm okay with that. I say that coming from serving on a board where I had that happen. 2 a.m. board meetings, things getting thrown across the room, not pieces of paper. Those aren't my prouder moments. 14,000 students need you to continue to lead the district forward. And what we like to say is what's at stake. Because remember when I said I went through your social media? I went through your social media, the district social media. I'm a little bit of a sap, but I was moved at what I saw. So what's at stake? These kids? These kids? These kids? And these kids? They need you to model for them how you're going to work through the opportunity you have in front of you. We did talk about we can't undo what's happened, but you get to write the future. You talked about what do you want to leave behind, and you talked about what do you want to carry forward. So here was your list of leave behind. Remember, it wasn't about people, right? Personal frustrations about abilities, old ways of thinking about UAB and finance, community comments that were inaccurate and rude. Leave the string of sharp criticism or failings that is only the learning that we carry forward. Acting before knowing, all negative words and thoughts, and a culture of yes. That's what you said collectively you wanted to leave behind. How you leave it behind, we can't control. You need to continue that conversation. Here's your opportunity. Friends, this is the hard part. There's lots of emotions in the room. I feel them. That's hard. You've had some hard conversations. That's brave. It's time to look inward. Because we can't control what other people do. We can't. But there are times when something doesn't go the way I wanted it to, and I planned it, and I thought all the things, and I get in my car and I drive home, and I have to go, well, maybe I have to do something differently. Here's what I'd like you to look at. On page 25 of your packet, looking out the windshield. What will each of us need to do differently for this board to become all you described at the beginning of the evening, which is when you talked about 3 things. People would say these 3 things made the board even stronger. These are what are you going to do. Not what I expect Amy to do, not what I expect Ruthina. What am I willing to do? You are not going to put your name on this. You're going to write your piece of paper down, use your half sheets of paper, leave them on your table. I'll pick them up and we'll tape them up so no one knows what you wrote. If y'all are smart enough to know each other's handwriting, I can't help you with that. Okay? Use the white paper, the little white half sheets of paper. If you're feeling like an overachiever and you want to write more, that's awesome. If you want to come back here and you want your own space to do a little writing, slide back here. I don't want somebody to see what I'm writing. You have plenty of space. Move around the room. What are you willing to commit to writing on one of those half sheets of paper for me? It can be a sentence, it can be a word. In Mike's words, it can be a haiku. And maybe it's something you're already doing. Maybe you are saying, I come to the table prepared and I read my word packets were big in my time, 200 and some odd pages, 300 and some odd pages. I'm going to sit next to somebody I don't like and I'm not going to cringe. That might be a real example. Might be a few years old, but it might be a real example for me. No, no, way more than once a month. It's a lot of paper. When you have your half sheets of paper ready, Jan will pick them up. She'll mix them up before she puts them up. Wait till she is everybody's.
This guy.
All right, does Jan have everybody's?
I think so.
Okay.
Where do you want that?
Do you want to just, let's take her over here. All right, I'm going to ask you to museum walk one more time. That's okay. That's all right.
Nobody's watching. No pressure.
No pressure. Just really right, DT, do you want to read them? I'm going to take a quick picture. Can you read them out loud for us? Is everybody okay if we read them out loud?
Go for it.
Okay?
I will keep my hubris in check, set high expectations for myself. I will visit every building in the district. I will assume positive intent and practice respectful listening. I will actively cultivate, to the best of my ability, a positive working relationship with board members and district staff to deepen my understanding of the information presented to the board and help me make the best decisions I can for the future of the district, of our district. Listen with attention to what is said, no matter how it is said, and try to discuss out how best to respond to the what. I will focus on serving the students and staff of this district with intentionality, thoughtfulness, and will focus my decision making on what is best for the district. Recognizing that we all are adults that no one can control, and for me to focus on how and what I can actually control. It isn't others, what others hear or think. They hear but what I actually say and do.
You take all of that to face value, just what you heard. Do you hear anything you disagree with adamantly? I hear 7 things from 7 different people that want to support 14,000 students really, really well. And how much luckier, as the worst grammar ever, could Iowa City students be have individuals who want to do that for them? I gave you each a random slip of paper. I would like you just to read the slip of paper. If you believe it to be true, if you believe that it's a good idea, I would like you to get a piece of tape and tape it right next to your list. If you don't believe it, you don't have to tape it up. Don't be afraid. Will you read it as you tape it up? Just read it out loud.
We will be prepared for discussion on agenda comments.
We will be accountable to the public, especially the students.
We will model the behavior and values we wish to see in students and staff.
We will foster open, honest, and transparent communication.
We will embrace our role as mentors and mentees.
We will listen with the goal of understanding.
We will act in good faith and assume positive intent for the focus on the best interest of students.
I have no idea who wrote those, but they're really beautiful statements. Do they look at all familiar to any of you? Put them right off your website. Do you believe it's important enough on your district page to put them on the page about board members? You believed it was important enough to put them there. I copied them and chopped them up while I sat on my office floor, and I wasn't exactly sure how I was going to use them. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to use them. Y'all did really hard work tonight. This work's not always easy. And if it is, I move into Iowa City. Because it's not always easy. I would ask you, give yourselves some grace. It's okay not to always agree. Keep talking about that. I have 2 things left for you, and I'll let you sit down. I promise they're easy. Your team that supports all of you at ISB is incredibly grateful for your work. For me to say thank you for what you do doesn't feel like it's enough. I miss my board work deeply. Friends, I don't miss what you're going through. I don't miss the emails. I don't miss the phone calls. But I miss the work. There's nothing I like better. No one should laugh. This is not a funny statement, than to watch a board meeting. Because it's like I'm watching knowing what's going on. The best way I can say thank you is to read an excerpt from the School Board Members Guidebook. I promise we're not here to start book clubs for y'all, but this is another excellent book. This is by Ryan Donnellan and Todd Whitaker. It's called The Difference Maker. You are a school board member. Whether recently elected or appointed or now enjoying decades of quality service, you have one of the most important professional responsibilities imaginable. Consider the fact that every time you go to the doctor for a checkup, or to the life insurance agent to purchase a policy that will protect your family, or you visit a lawyer to protect your interests in case of accident or injury, or entrust your safety to a police officer or a firefighter, you are meeting with someone who had a difference made in their lives because of someone like you. Someone on a school board. Every patriot fighting in our military, every farmer producing food for developing nations or our own nation, every volunteer helping serve those less fortunate in your community, as well as those investing in the stock market or providing the infrastructure and services to grow our economy relied upon a quality school experience to get them there. All who are successful today, or at least most of them, were given the skills to accomplish these feats in school. Folks like yourselves were there in governance roles, serving in many instances without the visibility of those in classrooms or leadership capacities, yet in ways that without your selfless service, quality classrooms and schools would not be possible. Your governance is crucial. Serving as an effective, proactive, and responsible school board member allows you to make a positive difference in the lives of those who depend on you. Today's children, tomorrow's adults, and the adults who are educating children towards a better place in life. And it doesn't end there. The call of service in reality is a larger investment in one's community. Schools are the second reason, be it past jobs, why families relocate to a certain area. Your service on a school board helps answer the question, what kind of community are we? Not only within our schools, but beyond our schools as well. You are the person who makes a difference. You are each a difference maker. Thank you for that. They know that I read this a lot because I do it with their permission, because I think it's that great to read just that little piece. That is how I can say thank you. Here is your last task. The last page of your packet, I think it's the last page, there's an opportunity, those of you that have worked with me before know that you don't get run out the door without this. It's a place to write yourself a letter. You can rip off that last page. This letter is between you and you. No one is reading this letter. So you're going to write yourself a letter. What do you want to be reminded about for tonight's work? 30 days from today, what do you want to be reminded about? What are you committing to yourself to doing? I'm going to give you a blank envelope. After you write your letter, you're folding it up, you're putting it in that envelope, and you're sealing it. You're going to address it to yourself. In about 30 days, you're going to get this letter in the mail. You'll be slightly concerned when you go to the mailbox and there is a letter in your own handwriting. Then you will realize, oh yeah, now I remember what it is.
She's not wrong, it is weirdly disconcerting. While you guys are doing that, I'm just going to hand out a couple things. So we didn't get through the exercise, but we do have some good information on when you guys start receiving that monthly financial reports and it starts becoming more robust. What are some of those questions that you can begin to ask? But please continue writing. Like I said, I will be handing these out. Just review it later, and then as you work with your team, review these and work on these together and see what you guys can add to it. Because again, this is just what we suggest as a starting point, but this is by no means completely inclusive. Also in your packet, on page 21, we have the board president's budget calendar. Now, it's a little bit of a misnomer in the name, because it's really for everybody. But it gives you a sense of maybe some of the things that as you're preparing your budget and as you're reviewing financial information, roughly kind of what times of the year that's good. Some of this might have to move, as Pat did point out, right? There's a lot that needs to happen in this district right now, when we're finalizing fiscal year 26. So some of it might not be totally where you want it to be right away, but there's just goals to work for. So that's on page 21, and it goes month by month, just some ideas, some of the stuff that needs to happen. We have that conversation about making sure we're getting things done on time and the reporting done on time. Some of those requirements are listed in there so that you know you can look forward to what's coming up and what needs to happen.
As you all wrap up the letters, thank you to Mike, Dan, Tammy, and BT for coming down to do the retreat for us. And Kim, I can just end, right? This is a retreat.
A motion to, yeah, adjourn.
All right, that's it. Good night, see you all Tuesday.